Hello everyone, and welcome to the Ben 10 What Ifs. So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Ben 10 became the Dragon Saiyan who unlocked Primal Inst. INCT, Ben 10 x Charmcaster x Caulifla, Dragon Ball Super. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Chapter 1. Convergence Point. The blinding flash of emerald light faded as Ben Tennyson skidded backward across broken asphalt, his diamond head form refracting the afternoon sunlight to prismatic patterns across the devastated street. Something felt wrong about this transformation. Different, but there wasn't time to analyze it. The crystalline protrusions sprouting from his shoulders seemed sharper, more angular than usual, and a strange energy pulsed through his silicon-based body. "Whatever you are, you picked the wrong dimension to invade," Ben called out, voice resonating with a metallic timbre as he faced the swirling vortex hovering above downtown Bellwood. The spatial tear rippled like disturbed water, its edges burning with colors that shouldn't exist. Three humanoid figures emerged, chalk-white skin, elongated limbs, and faces devoid of features except for pulsing geometric patterns where eyes should be. They moved with unsettling fluidity, less like walking more like flowing across reality itself. "Dimensional incursion detected," announced the computerized voice of Ben's plumber badge. "Unknown energy signature. Caution advised." Ben launched himself forward, transforming his right arm into a crystalline blade that caught the first entity across its torso. Instead of the resistance he expected, his weapon passed through as though slicing fog. Creature's body momentarily separated then reformed, its blank face turning toward him with clinical curiosity. "That's new," Ben muttered, pivoting as all three beings circled him with synchronized movements. "Usually when I hit something, it has the decency to stay hit." The creatures raised their arms in unison, reality distorting around their limbs before lashing out with whip-like append. Ages formed from the fabric of space itself. Ben generated a crystalline shield, but the attacks phased through his defense, striking with force that transcended physical laws. Pain flared across his consciousness, not just physical agony but something deeper, as though the attacks targeted the very code of his transformation. Half a universe away, in a reality that should never have connected with Ben's, Caulifla ducked under a barrage of energy blasts, her black hair whipping wildly as she countered with a rapid-fire assault of her own. The training grounds of planet Sadala trembled under the exchange of raw power. Craters forming with each missed attack. "Is that all you've got?" she taunted, a savage grin spreading across her face as adrenaline surged through her veins. Her opponent, a hulking alien with 4 arms and regenerative capabilities, roared in frustration, its body glowing with unnatural energy that seemed to leak from rifts forming in the air around them. Caulifla didn't. She noticed the subtle wrongness at first. The way stars in the distant sky began blinking out of existence, replaced by constellations that had never existed in Universe 6. She was too focused on the fight, on the burning desire to push beyond her limits, to ascend to the next level of Super Saiyan. The air between them fractured without warning, reality itself splintering with a sound like shattering glass that echoed beyond normal hearing. Her opponent froze mid-attack, its body suddenly riddled with lines of light that spread outward like cracks in a mirror. "What the?" Caulifla began, before the dimensional fracture expanded violently. The creature dissolved into particles of light, swept away by forces beyond comprehension. The training ground, planet Sadala, and the familiar stars of Universe 6 distorted as though viewed through flowing water. Caulifla felt herself being pulled toward the fracture, her ki flaring instinctively around her body in a protective aura. "Like hell I'm going down without a fight," she shouted, channeling her energy into her palms and firing a continuous beam into the heart of the anomaly. The blast disappeared into the void without effect, the pull intensifying until she could no longer resist. Back in Bellwood, Ben switched tactics, slapping the Omnitrix symbol on his chest. Time for something with a little more firepower. The green flash enveloped him. But instead of the familiar transformation sequence, Ben felt excruciating pain as the Omnitrix emitted a series of frantic beeps. Inside the transformation matrix, something unprecedented was occurring. Unknown DNA sequences interacting with the device's core programming, energy patterns from the dimensional rift interfering with the recombination process. Omnitrix malfunction, He device announced in a distorted voice. Unknown genetic material detected. Dimensional interference critical. Emergency protocols engaged. Ben's scream was lost in the cacophony of collapsing ray. Liddy's as the spatial tear expanded exponentially, engulfing him and the three entities in a maelstrom of fractured dimensions. The Omnitrix, designed to catalog and recombine DNA from across the galaxy, encountered something it was never meant to process. Saiyan genetic material being pulled across dimensional boundaries, carried on waves of energy that defied the laws of Ben's universe. In the heart of the convergence, two beings from separate realities collided, a human wielding the most powerful device in his universe and a Saiyan warrior with the potential to break through her biological limits. The Omnitrix, functioning on instinct rather than programming, attempted to catalog the Saiyan DNA while simultaneously protecting its wielder. The resulting explosion of green and golden energy erupted outward from Bellwood's center, momentarily connecting 2 points in separate universes that were never meant to touch. Citizens throughout the city witnessed impossible sights, buildings flickering between different architectural styles, people momentarily gaining shadows that moved independently, and the sky shifting between earth blue and the deep crimson of planet Sadala. Miles away from the epicenter, Hope, the sorceress known as Charmcaster, felt the magical disturbance like a physical blow. The spell components she'd been carefully measuring scattered across her workshop as she doubled over, gasping as unfamiliar energies rippled through the magical fields she was attuned to. By the ancient powers, she whispered, straightening as her eyes flashed violet with mystic sight. The magical auras surrounding Bellwood had transformed completely, patterns she'd studied for years suddenly rewritten with symbols and energies she'd never encountered. Her grimoire levitated from its pedestal, pages flipping rapidly before stopping on an ancient text she'd never been able to translate. The indecipherable symbols glowed briefly before resolving into legible script, a prophecy about worlds colliding and powers converging. Charmcaster's fingers traced the newly revealed words, her expression shifting from confusion to determination. The dimensional barriers are fracturing. She moved quickly to her scrying mirror, passing her hand over its surface. Show me the convergence point. The mirror's surface rippled, showing the swirling maelstrom above downtown Bellwood, focusing on a figure at its center, Ben Tennyson, suspended in a cocoon of emerald and golden energy, his body undergoing a transformation unlike any the Omnitrix had previously induced. Tennyson, she murmured, a complex mixture of emotions crossing her face. Their history was complicated, adversaries turned reluctant allies over the years. But this was something different, something that threatened the fabric of reality itself. What have you gotten yourself into this time? In another realm, beyond the boundaries of either universe, a being of immense power observed the convergence with calculating interest. Lord Zenith's form shifted constantly, never settling on a single appearance as he moved through his crystalline observatory. The walls surrounding him displayed countless realities, but his attention focused solely on the unexpected merging of two particular universes. Fascinating, he remarked to the hooded figures attending him. The catalyst proved more effective than anticipated. Two realities with complementary energy signatures, brought together by the merest nudge. One attendant stepped forward, face hidden in shadow. The Omnitrix bearer was not part of the original calculation, my lord. Quote, no, he wasn't. Zenith's voice resonated with multiple tones simultaneously. But his presence creates opportunities. The device's adaptive capabilities, combined with Saiyan biological potential. His ever-changing features settled momentarily into something resembling a smile. Monitor the convergence. This hybrid may prove useful in breaking the final seal. The attendant bowed. And if he becomes a threat, then we eliminate him, along with both realities. Zenith turned away from the display. The power of primal instinct will be mine, regardless of which vessel carries it. Consciousness returned to Ben in waves of disorienting sensation. First came pain. Not sharp and localized but a deep, cellular ache as though every molecule in his body had been disassembled and imperfectly reassembled. Then awareness of his surroundings. The rough texture of crater-scorched earth beneath him, the acrid smell of ozone and destruction, the distant sounds of emergency sirens and panicked voices. He opened his eyes to an altered Bellwood skyline. Familiar buildings remained, but between them stood structures of unfamiliar design, angular architecture with technology that appeared both advanced and alien. The sky above had changed too, now streaked with aurora-like ribbons of energy in patterns that physics couldn't explain. Omnitrix, Ben croaked, raising his wrist to check the device. Status report. The familiar green hourglass symbol flickered weakly, its usual bright glow dimmed to a pulsing rhythm that matched his heartbeat. Recalibration in progress. Came the computerized response, the voice deeper and somehow more organic than before. Genetic material integration at 63% completion. Genetic material? What? Ben pushed himself upright, wincing at muscles that felt simultaneously stronger and unfamiliar. What happened during transformation? Dimensional breach exposed Omnitrix to non-native DNA sequence. Emergency protocols attempted sample containment. Partial integration occurred before safeguards activated. The Omnitrix's explanation was interrupted by another voice, female, aggressive, and decidedly not from Earth. You, whatever you are, you've got exactly 3 seconds to explain what you've done before I blast you into the next dimension. Ben turned to face a young woman hovering several feet above the ground. Her body surrounded by a visible aura of energy that pulsed with barely contained power. Her spiky black hair defied gravity, and her fierce eyes promised violence. She wore unusual clothing, baggy pants and a midriff-bearing top that seemed designed for combat flexibility. I'm guessing you're not from around here, Ben replied, slowly standing to face her. So, mething about her triggered an unfamiliar response in his body, a rush of adrenaline and something else, a primal recognition that made no sense. I'm Ben Tennyson, and believe it or not, I didn't cause whatever this is. The woman's eyes narrowed as she descended, landing with casual grace that belied the power he sensed within her. Caulifla, Universe 6 Saiyan warrior. And I don't believe you. 1 second I'm training on planet Sadala. The next I'm pulled through some kind of spatial rift into, whatever this backwater planet is. Earth, Ben provided, noting how her stance shifted subtly into a combat-ready position. And I was in the middle of fighting some interdimensional entities when everything went sideways. The Omnitrix tried to. The what? Caulifla interrupted, eyes fixing on the device on his wrist. That thing was at the center of the energy signature I sensed. It's still radiating power. Ben's instincts screamed a warning a split second before Caulifla moved. She lost the distance between them with impossible speed, her fist aimed directly at the Omnitrix. Ben reacted with reflexes honed through years of combat, twisting aside while simultaneously reaching for the device. I wouldn't, he began. But Caulifla's attack grazed the Omnitrix, triggering a feedback pulse of green energy that sent both of them flying backward. Ben hit the ground rolling, "Comin'." G up in a defensive stance as new information flooded his consciousness, combat techniques he'd never learned, power he'd never possessed in human form. His body moved with heightened reflexes, muscles, responding with strength that shouldn't be possible without transformation. Across the crater, Caulifla landed on her feet, looking more annoyed than injured. That thing's got some kick to it, she acknowledged, a predatory grin spreading across her face. But if you think a little shock is going to stop a Saiyan warrior, you're even more pathetic than you look. She launched herself forward again, this time wreathed in visible energy. Ben braced for impact, instinctively channeling unfamiliar power through his body. As Caulifla's fist connected with his crossed arms, the expected pain never came. Instead, a shockwave erupted from the point of contact, cratering the ground beneath them further. Both combatants stared at each other in shock. Ben should have been thrown back or injured by the impact, yet he stood his ground. Arms vibrating from absorbed energy but otherwise unharmed. That's not possible, Caulifla muttered, jumping back to reassess. No ordinary human could withstand that blow. Ben looked down at his arms, noting the subtle glow beneath his skin, not the green of an Omnitrix transformation but something golden and unfamiliar. I don't think I'm entirely human anymore, he realized aloud. The Omnitrix's earlier words taking on new meaning. Genetic material integration. When our universes collided, the Omnitrix must have sampled your DNA. Sampled my. Caulifla's expression shifted from confusion to outrage. You're saying that wristwatch stole my Saiyan genetics. That's why you could withstand my attack. Not stole, Ben corrected, experimental. Lee clenching his fist and watching the golden energy respond to his will. The Omnitrix catalogs DNA and allows me to transform into different species. But this is different. It's like your DNA has been partially integrated into my baseline form. Caulifla's response was interrupted by a new dimensional fracture opening behind her. Unlike the chaotic tear from earlier, this portal formed with precision. Its edges rimmed with silver-violet energy that spoke of controlled magic rather than random dimensional collapse. Charmcaster stepped through, her silver hair and purple eyes immediately drawing attention. She wore a more mature version of her signature outfit, the magical artifacts adorning it humming with contained power. Her expression was serious as she surveyed the destruction, eyes widening slightly at the sight of Ben and his unfamiliar companion. Tennyson, she acknowledged with a nod that lacked the hostility of their earlier years. I sensed the dimensional collapse from miles away. The magical currents are completely destabilized. Hope. Ben returned the nod, noting Caulifla's defensive stance at the newcomer's arrival. This is getting complicated. Meet Caulifla, apparently a Saiyan warrior, from Universe 6 feet, and I think I've somehow absorbed some of her DNA. Charmcaster's gaze sharpened as she took in Ben's altered appearance, subtle changes that wouldn't be noticeable to most. But her magical sight revealed the golden energy now intertwined with his life force. The Omnitrix integrated alien DNA without transformation. That shouldn't be possible. A lot of impossible things are happening today, Ben replied, wincing as another wave of pain rippled through him. The Omnitrix beeped rapidly, its symbol fluctuating between green and gold. Integration accelerating, the device announced. Genetic recombination at 78%. Warning. Transformation matrix undergoing fundamental recalibration. Caulifla stepped forward, suspicion evident in her stance. Who's the witch? Another of your allies in whatever experiment pulled me across dimensions. I'm Charmcaster, High Sorceress of Legerdemain, Hope replied coolly, magical energy flickering at her fingertips. And I had nothing to do with this convergence, though I'm very interested in understanding it before both our realities collapse completely. Both are, Caulifla began. Before her attention snapped to the sky as another tremor shook the ground. Above them, the fabric of reality visibly strained, patches of Bellwood sky intermittently replaced by glimpses of an alien landscape, red skies, strange architecture, and distant mountains that couldn't exist on Earth. The dimensional boundaries were becoming increasingly permeable, allowing elements from both universes to bleed through. The convergence is accelerating, Charmcaster stated, rapidly drawing magical symbols in the air that glowed with monitoring enchantments. Whatever caused this, it's not a temporary phenomenon. The dimensional barriers between your universe and ours are systematically breaking down. Ben felt another surge of unfamiliar power course through him, stronger this time. His vision briefly shifted, perceiving energy patterns around both women that normal human eyes couldn't detect. Charmcaster's magical aura in complex geometric patterns and Caulifla's raw biological power radiating like solar flares. We need to contain this, Ben decided, forcing himself to focus despite the continuing changes within his body. Hope, can your magic stabilize the immediate area while we figure out what's happening? Charmcaster nodded, already reaching into her bag for components. I can establish a temporary dimensional anchor, but it won't hold for long. The magical currents are too disrupted for conventional spellwork. Do it. Ben turned to Caulifla, who watched their exchange with wary attention. I know you have no reason to trust me, but right now, we need to work together. If our universes are colliding, everyone is at risk, your world and mine. Caulifla crossed her arms, assessing him with calculating eyes. You've somehow tapped into Saiyan power without proper training. That makes you dangerous and unpredictable. A smile that was more challenge than friendship curved her lips. Interesting enough to keep around until I figure out how to get home. I'll take that as Saiyan for, let's cooperate temporarily, Ben replied dryly, feeling another wave of genetic integration ripple through him. The sensation was becoming less painful and more invigorating, as though his body was awakening to new potential. Charmcaster completed a circle of runes around them, each symbol pulsing with silver-violet light that spread outward in a dome. The chaotic fluctuations in the sky directly above them stabilized somewhat, though the phenomenon continued unabated beyond the boundary of her spell. That buys us perhaps an hour, she informed them, beads of sweat forming on her brow from the effort of maintaining such powerful magic. Whatever we're going to do, it needs to happen quickly. The temporary respite was shattered by the arrival of the 3 featureless entities from earlier. Now joined by 2 more identical beings. They phased through Charmcaster's magical barrier without resistance, their blank faces turning in unison toward Ben. The convergent, they spoke simultaneously, their voices overlapping in dissonant harmony. The catalyst requires harvesting. Friends of yours? Caulifla asked Ben, dropping into a fighting stance as energy began to gather around her hands. More like the reason I was using the Omnitrix when everything went sideways, Ben replied, reaching for the device despite its continued recalibration. I'm guessing they're connected to whatever caused all this. The entities moved with that same unsettling fluidity, surrounding the trio in perfect geometric formation. Charmcaster's hands traced complex patterns as she prepared defensive spells, while Caulifla's body tensed with barely contained power. Let's see if these things can handle a Saiyan warrior at full strength, Caulifla declared, her aura flaring brighter as she gathered ki. With a battle cry that seemed to shake the very air, she launched herself at the nearest entity, her fist connecting with enough force to shatter concrete. He being absorbed the impact like before, its form momentarily distorting before reforming. Caulifla didn't relent, unleashing a barrage of energy-enhanced strikes that would have demolished a normal opponent. Each blow created ripples in the entity's form without lasting damage. Physical attacks pass through them, Ben warned, remembering his earlier encounter. They're not fully materialized in our dimension. Charmcaster completed her incantation, releasing a barrage of magenta energy bolts that struck another entity. Unlike physical attacks, the magical energy seemed to affect it, causing its form to destabilize momentarily. They have some vulnerability to magical disruption, she called out. Ben, try using magical aliens. Ben nodded, slapping the Omnitrix despite its warning beeps. Come on, give me something useful. The transformation sequence began but immediately felt wrong. Green energy swirled around him, intermingling with the golden Saiyan power now integrated into his system. Ben felt his body changing, molecular structure shifting as the Omnitrix activated, but the process seemed to incorporate rather than override his new Saiyan aspects. When the light faded, Ben had become a transformed version of Heat Blast, but unlike any iteration he'd used before. The normally pure flame body now contained golden energy veins pulsing through the magma-like exterior. His frame was more muscular, the flame core burning hotter and brighter than ever before. Whoa, Ben exclaimed, his voice deeper and resonating with power. This is definitely new. One of the entities launched itself toward him. Reality warping appendages extended. Ben instinctively raised his hands, expecting to generate his usual fireballs. Instead, what erupted from his palms was a concentrated beam of fire and golden energy that struck the entity with unprecedented force. Unlike previous attacks, this one had visible effect. The creature's form destabilized completely, its blank face contorting in what might have been pain before it dissolved into particles of light that scattered and vanished. Okay, that worked, Ben observed, staring at his hands in surprise. The Saiyan energy must be amplifying my transformations. Quote. Caulifla paused in her assault, watching Ben with newfound interest. You're channeling ki through that fire form, she noted. Crude and untrained, but effective. The remaining entities retreated slightly, regrouping as they reassessed the threat. Charmcaster used the opportunity to strengthen her dimensional anchor spell, drawing more complex runes that pulsed with increased power. I'm detecting a pattern in their movement, she called out. They're not just attacking randomly, they're attempting to create a specific energy configuration around us. Ben focused his enhanced senses on the entities, noting how they positioned themselves at precise intervals. You're right, it's like they're setting up some kind of ritual or technology. Whatever they're doing, I'm shutting it down, Caulifla declared, gathering energy between her palms. The ball of ki grew rapidly, pulsing with destructive potential. Stand back unless you want to get caught in this. She thrust her hands forward, releasing a massive beam of energy that engulfed 2 of the entities simultaneously. The attack tore through the dimensional fabric behind them, creating another rift that pulsed with chaotic energy. The entities within the beam's path distorted, their forms stretching and compressing before shattering like glass. The dimensional tear expanded rapidly. the edges burning with the same unfamiliar energy as the original rift. Through it, glimpses of another world became visible, a crystalline chamber where a tall figure stood observing, his form constantly shifting between different appearances. The convergence proceeds as planned, the figure's voice echoed through the rift, a smile forming on his ever-changing face. Continue the catalyst's development. The primal instinct stirs. Before anyone could respond, the rift collapsed, reality snapping back into place with a thunderclap of displaced air. The remaining entities retreated, phasing through solid matter and disappearing from sight. Who or what was that? Ben asked, reverting to human form as the Omnitrix timed out. The transformation left him feeling strangely energized rather than drained. The Saiyan power still flowing through his veins. I don't know, Charmcaster replied, her expression grim, but whoever it was, they're manipulating this convergence deliberately. T.S. isn't some natural dimensional accident. Caulifla extinguished her energy aura, though tension remained evident in her stance. That level of dimensional control requires technology or power beyond anything I've encountered. Even among the gods of our universe. Gods, Ben repeated, raising an eyebrow. Your universe has actual gods. Gods of destruction, supreme Kais who create, angels who serve them. Caulifla confirmed with a casual shrug, as though discussing everyday acquaintances. They maintain the balance of Universe 6. I'm guessing your reality has different cosmic management. Celestial sapiens, chronosapiens, interdimensional entities, Ben listed. But they generally don't interfere directly unless universal-level threats emerge. Which this clearly qualifies as, Charmcaster interjected, gesturing to the increasingly unstable reality around them. Beyond her magical barrier, portions of Bellwood continued to flicker between states, buildings and streets intermittently replaced by alien landscapes. We need to gather information and allies quickly. Ben nodded, reaching for his plumber badge to contact Gwen and Kevin. The communication device activated but displayed only static, occasionally resolving into fragmented images of his cousin's concerned face before dissolving again. Communication systems are affected by the dimensional instability, he concluded, pocketing the device. We'll need to find them directly. Caulifla crossed her arms, impatience evident in her posture. While you're gathering your friends, I should be trying to contact my universe. Kaba and Kale will be looking for me, and if the gods have noticed this convergence, they might have information we need. The problem is that right now, your universe and ours are increasingly the same thing. Charmcaster pointed out, gesturing to where a distant mountain range had appeared on Bellwood's horizon, geography that had never existed on Earth. The boundaries are collapsing, which means we need to understand the connection between Ben's transformation and this convergence. Ben felt another surge of power course through him, stronger than before. The Omnitrix beeped once, its symbol stabilizing into a new configuration, the familiar hourglass now rimmed with golden energy that pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. Genetic integration complete, the device announced, its voice deeper and more resonant than its usual mechanical tone. Omnitrix recalibration finalized. Saiyan DNA permanently incorporated into base template. Permanently, Ben echoed, staring at the device in shock. That's not how the Omnitrix works. Transformations are temporary by design. The dimensional energy disrupted normal containment protocols, the Omnitrix explained. The Convergence event created unprecedented conditions that allowed genetic material to integrate with your human DNA rather than replace it temporarily. You are now a hybrid entity, human biology enhanced with Saiyan characteristics. Caulifla stepped closer, her expression a mixture of outrage and fascination. So you've become part Saiyan without being born one. That shouldn't be possible. A lot of possible things seem to be happening today, Ben replied, experimentally channeling the energy he now felt constantly flowing through his body. A subtle golden aura briefly manifested around his hand before he controlled it. The power responding to his will more naturally with each passing moment. But if I've got Saiyan abilities now, maybe I can help stabilize the convergence. Charmcaster's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. The timing can't be coincidence. Those entities appeared, targeted you specifically, and now you've become a hybrid being at the exact moment our universes are merging. You, reconnected to whatever's happening, possibly the key to either stopping or completing it. The figure in the rift mentioned something called Primal Instinct, Ben recalled. Any idea what that might be? Both women shook their heads. But the Omnitrix beeped again. Partial data available, it announced. Primal instinct. Theoretical state beyond known transformation limits. Ancient records I.N. database suggest convergence of multiple power systems required to access. Additional information corrupted or classified. Multiple power systems, Ben repeated thoughtfully. Like Omnitrix transformations and Saiyan abilities combined. That would explain why you were targeted, Charmcaster reasoned. If this, primal instinct, requires both Saiyan biology and the Omnitrix's capabilities, why? Would be the perfect catalyst for whatever this being is planning. Caulifla's expression hardened. Which means you're either the solution to fixing this mess or the weapon that mysterious figure wants to use. Either way, you need proper training in Saiyan abilities before you hurt yourself or others. Agreed, Charmcaster nodded. Your magic-based transformations will also need refinement to handle the Saiyan energy integration. I can help with that aspect. Ben looked between the two women. One a former enemy turned reluctant ally, the other a warrior from a universe that shouldn't be connected to his own. Both powerful, both complicated, both now essential to understanding what he was becoming. Then we have our next steps, he decided. We find Gwen and Kevin, gather what allies we can, and figure out how to control whatever I'm turning into before that mysterious figure completes his plan. A tremor stronger than previous ones shook the ground, the dimensional anchor spell FL. Ickering as reality strained against Charmcaster's magic. Through gaps in the barrier, they glimpsed chaos spreading through Bellwood, civilians running from materialized creatures unlike anything native to Earth. Buildings reconstructing themselves with alien architecture, and patches of landscape transforming into environments from Caulifla's universe. We don't have much time, Charmcaster warned, her face showing the strain of maintaining the protective spell. The convergence is accelerating. Ben reached for the Omnitrix, testing whether his new hybrid state would affect his ability to transform. Then let's move. XLR8 should get us to Gwen's location quickly, assuming the transformation works properly with these new modifications. As he activated the device, the familiar green light enveloped him. But now interwoven with threads of golden energy. The transformation felt smoother than before, power flowing naturally as his form shifted into the Kinesolaran speedster, but with noticeable differences. XLR8's streamlined body now featured more defined musculature, the visor glowing with golden energy, and when he spoke, his voice carried a dual resonance. Definitely different, Ben observed, examining his altered form, but hopefully just as fast. Grab on. This might feel strange. Charmcaster dispelled her anchor with a gesture, magical energy flowing back into her body as she took hold of Ben's arm. Caulifla hesitated, pride warring with practicality before she grudgingly placed her hand on his shoulder. If you drop me, Tennyson, I'll show you what a real Saiyan can do when they're angry. She warned, though there was a hint of curiosity beneath the threat. Noted, Ben replied, the enhanced XLR8 form vibrating with barely contained speed and power. Hold on tight. They vanished in a blur of movement, leaving behind a crater that existed simultaneously in two universes, the first physical manifestation of a convergence that threatened to either destroy both realities or create something entirely new. In the crystalline observatory beyond dimensional boundaries, Lord Zenith observed the hybrid being's departure with satisfaction. The ever-shifting G patterns of his face settled momentarily into a smile that revealed too many teeth. The Dragon Saiyan awakens, he murmured to his assembled followers. And with him, the key to primal instinct stirs from its ancient slumber. One hooded attendant stepped forward cautiously. The sorceress and the Saiyan female were not accounted for in our calculations, my lord. Their influence could disrupt the catalyst's development. On the contrary, Zenith replied, his form rippling as he turned away from the viewing portal. Their presence accelerates the process. The Dragon Saiyan requires balance between universes, magic and ki, transformation and evolution, control and instinct. They will help forge the vessel we require. And once the primal instinct is awakened, another attendant inquired. Zenith's constantly shifting features briefly stabilized into something ancient and terrible, a visage from before either universe had fully formed. Then we break the final seal, and existence as both realities understand it will end. From that destruction, I will forge a new cosmos under my absolute control. His laughter echoed through chambers that existed outside normal space and time. As the convergence he had set in motion continued its inexorable progression toward a conclusion that would rewrite the fundamental laws of multiple universes. The awakening of the Dragon Saiyan was just the beginning. Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. New Powers, New Threats. Ben Tennyson stared at his reflection in Gwen's bathroom mirror, cataloging unfamiliar changes with scientific detachment that belied his inner turmoil. His jawline had sharpened almost imperceptibly. Muscle definition appeared where none had existed 24 hours earlier. Most unsettling were his eyes, still green, but OCC. Occasionally flashing with golden energy when emotions ran high. He ran fingers through hair that seemed slightly coarser, noticing how it resisted lying flat in certain spots. "This is beyond weird," he muttered, gripping the sink's edge. The porcelain cracked under pressure he didn't intend to apply. A knock interrupted his inspection. "Ben." Gwen's voice carried concern through the door. The analysis program finished its first scan. "Kevin's setting up the secondary equipment now. Be right there." Ben released the sink, grimacing at the damage. His cousin's apartment had become their OMPTU headquarters after the escape from downtown Bellwood, one of the few locations where reality remained relatively stable. He found the living room transformed into a makeshift laboratory. Gwen's magical artifacts shared space with Kevin's mechanical equipment while holographic displays showed cascading data streams from the Omnitrix. Seated uncomfortably on the couch, arms crossed and expression thunderous, Caulifla watched the proceedings with barely contained impatience. Charmcaster stood by the window, fingers tracing protective sigils across the glass while monitoring the increasingly chaotic skyline. "You look like hell, Tennyson," Kevin observed without looking up from the scanner he was calibrating. The years had matured him, his tall frame carrying the confidence of a man who had found his place in the universe. "Though considering you've had your DNA rewritten by cross-dimensional alien genetics, that's probably a compliment." Gwen tossed Ben a protein bar, which he caught reflexively. "Eat. Your metabolism is functioning at roughly 3 times normal human rate. The scans show you've burned through approximately 4,000 calories since breakfast." Ben unwrapped the bar mechanically. Hunger suddenly overwhelming as the scent hit his nostrils. He devoured it in seconds, shocking himself with the ferocity of his appetite. "Yeah, that's a Saiyan trait all right," Caulifla commented. Something between amusement and disdain coloring her voice. "Our metabolism supports enhanced strength and energy output. You're going to need a lot more food than that to maintain functionality." Kevin tossed a tablet toward Ben, who snatched it from the air with precision that would have been impossible days earlier. "Initial analysis is weird. Your baseline DNA still reads as human, but it's been augmented, I guess. The Saiyan genetics didn't replace yours, they've somehow integrated alongside it. The Omnitrix was never designed for this," Ben said, scrolling through complex genetic models. "It's supposed to transform me completely into a different species, then revert me back to human. This partial integration shouldn't be possible." Gwen tucked a strand of vibrant red hair behind her ear, her expression thoughtful. Years of magical study had given her an aura of calm confidence, emerald eyes reflecting intelligence that matched her cousin's in different ways. "It's not just genetic. There's an energy signature interwoven with your life force that doesn't match any known pattern in our database." Caulifla supplied, uncrossing her arms as she leaned forward. "Life energy that Saiyans naturally manipulate for combat. Your cousin's right, it's not just physical changes. Your energy system has been fundamentally altered." Ben felt a surge of irritation disproportionate to the conversation, his hands clenching involuntarily. "Great. So I'm part alien warrior with anger issues and an appetite that could bankrupt a buffet restaurant. Anything else I should know about my exciting new biology?" The protein bar's wrapper crumpled in his fist, golden energy briefly flickering around his knuckles. Everyone in the room tensed, energy signet. Yours responding instinctively, Gwen's magic, Kevin's absorbed material, Caulifla's ki, and Charmcaster's spellcraft all flaring momentarily. "That," Caulifla said after a tense moment, "is another Saiyan trait. Aggression response tied to power fluctuation. Your emotions now directly feed your energy output." Ben forced his hands to relax, taking deliberate breaths as the golden aura subsided. "Sorry, I didn't mean to." "No apologies needed," Gwen interrupted gently. We're dealing with unprecedented circumstances. What matters is understanding what's happening and how to control it. Kevin finished adjusting a cylindrical device, pointing it toward Ben. This should give us a better reading on your energy signature. Hold still for a second. The device hummed, projecting a 3-dimensional model of Ben's body surrounded by swirling patterns of green and gold. The image rotated slowly, data streams updating in real time. Fascinating, Charmcaster commented, approaching from her position by the window. The magical resonance patterns are completely restructured. Your mana signature has elements I've never seen before, which explains why certain transformations might function differently now, Gwen added, manipulating the holographic display to highlight specific energy nodes. The Omnitrix draws on your life force when transforming. With these new energy patterns integrated into your system, my alien forms get a Saiyan upgrade, Ben finished, recalling how differently his Heat Blast transformation had performed. But that doesn't explain why this happened now, or who those entities were. Or what that figure meant by primal instinct. A deliberate knock at the front door interrupted their discussion. Everyone tensed, prepared for potential threats. Demency. Onal incursions had been growing more frequent with each passing hour. It's okay, Gwen assured them after checking a small enchanted mirror. I recognize her aura. It's Kai Green, Ben finished as Gwen opened the door, genuine surprise coloring his voice. The woman who entered carried herself with the confident grace of someone comfortable in challenging environments. Her long dark hair was tied back in a practical braid, tan skin bearing the subtle marks of someone who spent significant time outdoors. She wore cargo pants with multiple pockets, a fitted jacket over a simple tank top, and sturdy boots that had seen considerable use. An ornate leather satchel hung across her body, and her sharp eyes quickly assessed everyone in the room. Been a while, Ben, she greeted with a small smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Though I expected to find you under better circumstances than, reality is collapsing. Kai, Ben returned with equal parts warmth and confusion. Not that it isn't good to see you. But how did you know about the convergence? She patted the satchel at her side. That's why I'm here. I've been tracking interdimensional anomalies for the Navajo Cultural Preservation Department's Special Division. When Bellwood started experiencing reality fractures, I flew in immediately. Gwen gestured to the others in the room. Kai, this is Charmcaster. Hope, who's helping us with the magical aspects of the crisis. Kevin, you remember. And this is Caulifla, who's from the other universe, Kai finished, studying the Saiyan woman with undisguised interest. Universe 6, based on the partial dimensional signatures we've been tracking. A parallel reality with significantly different physical laws and evolutionary patterns. Caulifla raised an eyebrow, reassessing the newcomer with slightly more respect. You've done your homework for someone from this backwater dimension. I specialize in ancient civilizations, particularly those with interdimensional connections. Kai replied, unruffled by Caulifla's dismissive tone. Which brings me to why I'm here. She reached into her satchel, extracting an artifact wrapped in protective cloth. 3 months ago, an archaeological expedition in Peru uncovered a temple predating known civilizations. The symbols inside matched nothing in our records until yesterday, when the convergence began. She unwrapped the object, a stone tablet approximately the size of a book, covered in strange glyphs that seemed to shift subtly when viewed from different angles. As she placed it on Gwen's coffee table, both Charmcaster and Gwen moved closer, magical senses detecting the artifact's unusual properties. It's not just stone, Charmcaster observed, fingers hovering above the surface without touching it. There's dimensional energy crystallized within its structure. Kai nodded. We believe it's a fragment of something called the Chronos Codex, a record created by beings who existed before the separation of dimensions. Ben felt a strange resonance as he approached the tablet, the Omnitrix pulsing in response to its presence. The glyphs began glowing with faint golden light, similar to the energy now flowing through his veins. It's reacting to you, Kai noted, watching Ben carefully. Or more specifically, to what you've become. Gwen leaned closer to the tablet, her magical training allowing her to interpret symbols that would be meaningless to others. These pictographs, they're showing a convergence between realities. And this figure here, she pointed to a humanoid form surrounded by dual energy signatures. It looks like a being of two worlds. The Dragon Saiyan, Kai confirmed. That's what the temple inscriptions called it. A hybrid entity possessing the powers of transformation and evolution simultaneously. According to the prophecy, this being would emerge when the walls between worlds thin and serve as either salvation or catalyst for something called primal instinct, Ben completed. The words feeling strangely familiar on his tongue. Kai's eyes widened slightly. You've heard of it. The entity controlling those dimensional creatures mentioned it, Ben explained. And the Omnitrix had partial data about it, some kind of theoretical state beyond known transformation limits. Kevin, who had been scanning the tablet with various devices, whistled softly. Whatever this thing is, it's broadcasting on frequencies that shouldn't exist. The energy signature matches fragments we've detected at dimensional breach points around the city. So this convergence was foretold. Charmcaster mused, her expression troubled. Which suggests it's not random at all, but part of some greater design. That tracks with what we found at the temple, Kai agreed. Pulling a digital tablet from her satchel and displaying three-dimensional scans of wall carvings. These depict a being called Zenith, described as the one who waits between, orchest. Rating the reunion of sundered realities. Ben studied the images, recognizing the shifting, unstable form he had glimpsed through the dimensional rift. That's him, the figure controlling those entities. But why? What does he gain from merging our universes? Caulifla, who had remained uncharacteristically quiet during the exchange, suddenly straightened. Power. In my universe, there are legends about the time before creation, when all existence was unified in a state of perfect energy. The gods themselves are said to be mere fragments of that original power. Which matches Legerdemain's oldest texts, Charmcaster added. They speak of a primordial state where magic and physical energy were one and the same, before reality fractured into separate dimensions with different fundamental laws. Gwen's expression grew increasingly concerned as she translated more of the tablet's text. According to this, the being called Zenith was present during the original sundering of reality. He seeks to reverse the process, returning existence to its primal state with himself as the controlling consciousness. And somehow I'm part of his plan, Ben concluded, the weight of the situation settling on his shoulders. This, Dragon Saiyan, transformation isn't an accident, it's something he engineered by manipulating the dimensional barriers. A heavy silence fell over the room as the implications sank in. Their reality wasn't just experiencing a random crisis, they were facing a calculated scheme by an entity with power beyond comprehension. The moment was shattered by Ben's stomach growling audibly, the sound almost comically mundane against the cosmic revelations. Several tension-breaking smiles appeared despite the circumstances. Saiyan metabolism, Caulifla reminded him with something approaching sympathy. You need to eat regularly now, or your energy levels will crash spectacularly. Kevin pushed himself away from the equipment. I'll make a food run. The way reality's been warping. We should stock up while we can. I'll help, Gwen offered, grabbing her jacket. We'll need specialized equipment too. The university lab might have components we can use to build better monitoring devices. As they prepared to leave, the building shook with another dimensional tremor, stronger than previous ones. Outside the window, the sky rippled with aurora-like energy pat. RNS as reality struggled to maintain coherence. The convergence is accelerating, Charmcaster observed grimly. We're running out of time. Then we need to understand my new abilities quickly, Ben decided, turning to Caulifla. You know more about Saiyan biology and powers than anyone here. I need you to explain exactly what I'm dealing with. Caulifla crossed her arms, studying Ben with calculating eyes. Pride and practicality warred visibly in her expression before she nodded curtly. Fine, but training a half-baked Saiyan won't be easy, and I'm not known for my patience. I can help with the magical aspects, Charmcaster offered. If your transformations are integrating Saiyan energy with their native abilities, understanding the interaction will be crucial. And I'll continue translating the tablet, Kai added, already setting up her equipment. There might be specific information about countering Zenith's plans or stabilizing the convergence. With roles established, the group dispersed to their tasks. Gwen and Kevin departed for supplies, while Kai settled at the dining table with her archaeological tools and reference materials. Charmcaster moved to the center of the room. beginning to draw complex magical circles for testing energy interactions. Ben followed Caulifla to the apartment's small balcony, where the Saiyan warrior leaned against the railing, surveying the increasingly strange Bellwood skyline. Buildings from her universe had materialized among familiar structures, creating an architectural impossibility that somehow functioned as a cohesive city. First lesson about being Saiyan. Caulifla began without preamble, her voice matter of fact. We're warriors, not soldiers, not fighters, warriors. It's encoded in our DNA at a fundamental level. The aggression you're feeling, the battle instincts, the way your body responds to challenges, that's all part of what makes a Saiyan. Ben absorbed this, testing his emotional responses against her description. The constant undercurrent of energy he now felt, the heightened awareness of potential threats, the way his body instinctively analyzed opponents, it all matched her assessment. So I'm going to be permanently angry and looking for fights? He asked, only half joking. Because that's going to make family dinners awkward. Caulifla snorted, a sound that might have been reluctant amusement. It's not about anger. It's about drive. Saiyans improve through challenge and adaptation. Every battle makes us stronger, every near defeat pushes our limits further. Your body will crave that growth now, seeking worthy opponents to test itself against. That explains why I feel so restless, Ben admitted, flexing his hand experimentally and watching his golden energy briefly flickered between his fingers. Like I need to be doing something, testing these new abilities. You do, Caulifla confirmed. Untrained Saiyan energy is dangerous, to yourself and others. You need to learn control quickly. She straightened, turning to face him directly. Show me what you can do so far. Channel your energy consciously. Ben closed his eyes, focusing on the golden power flowing through his system. Unlike the Omnitrix transformations, which came from an external source, this energy felt intrinsically part of him, responding to his will rather than a device's programming. He concentrated, drawing it toward his palm as he'd seen Caulifla do during their earlier encounter. A sphere of golden energy formed above his hand, pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. It was small and unstable, compared to Caulifla's effortless manifestations, but the accomplishment sent a surge of satisfaction through him. Not completely hopeless, Caulifla assessed, though her tone carried something like reluctant approval. Your energy control is sloppy, but you have good instinctive connection to your ki. Probably because of all those transformations, your consciousness is adaptable to different energy systems. The sphere wobbled as Ben's concentration wavered, then dissipated. How do Saiyans typically learn to control this? Through battle, primarily, Caulifla replied, demonstrating by effortlessly manifesting multiple energy spheres that orbited her hand like miniature planets. We're thrown into combat situations from childhood, our bodies adapting naturally to increasing challenges. But you don't have that luxury of time. She dismissed her energy display with a casual gesture. The basics are simple enough conceptually. Ki is life energy that flows through specific channels in the body. With practice, you can direct it, concentrate it, and release it in various forms. The difficult part is building the mental discipline to maintain control under pressure. Ben nodded, understanding the principle. Not unlike how I've learned to master different alien forms over the years. Each has unique energy requirements and limitations. Except now you're the energy source, Caulifla corrected. Not that wristwatch. The power comes from within you, responds to your emotions, and grows with your will to fight. As if to emphasize her point, another tremor shook the building. This one powerful enough to crack the concrete beneath their feet. In the distance, a section of Bellwood transformed before their eyes, buildings reshaping into the distinctive architecture of planet Sadala. Streets reconfiguring to accommodate different gravitational assumptions. This is happening too quickly, Ben observed, concern evident in his voice. The rate of convergence is increasing exponentially. Which means we need to accelerate your training, Caulifla concluded. Theory isn't enough. You need practical application under pressure. Before Ben could respond, the door to the balcony slid open as Charmcaster stepped outside, her expression urgent. We have a problem. I've been monitoring the magical currents throughout the city, and there's a massive energy buildup occurring at Bellwood University. Something's materializing there, something big. Ben reached for the Omnitrix instinctively. Looks like I'll get that practical application sooner than expected. Back inside, Kai had arranged her archaeological equipment around the stone tablet, sophisticated scanning devices projecting holographic representations of the symbols. She looked up as they entered, concern evident in her expression. "I've deciphered more of the text," she reported. "It references something called the Chronos Collective, described as shapers of time who walk between worlds. According to this, they serve as Zenith's eyes and hands in physical reality. Those faceless entities that attacked us," Ben suggested, the description matching what they'd encountered. Kai nodded. "The tablet says they prepare convergence sites by establishing resonance points at locations of significance. Once enough points are activated, the merger becomes irreversible." Charmcaster's eyes widened with understanding. "That's what's happening at the university. They're creating another resonance point. Then we need to stop them," Ben decided, already moving toward the door. "Caulifla, yo, you said Saiyans learn best through combat. Time to put that theory to the test. Charmcaster, your magic might be effective against these entities." "Kai, I'm coming too," the archaeologist stated firmly, slinging her satchel across her body. "The tablet mentions specific countermeasures against the collective. I might recognize something useful at the site." Ben didn't argue, recognizing the determination in her eyes. "Stay close and behind cover when possible. These things aren't like any enemies we've faced before." They descended to the street level, where reality had become increasingly unstable. Patches of sidewalk alternated between concrete and alien materials, while the sky above displayed impossible astronomical configurations, Earth's sun visible alongside unfamiliar celestial bodies from Universe 6. "How are we getting to the university?" Kai asked, eyeing the chaotic landscape with professional fascination despite the danger. "The roads don't seem particularly reliable at the moment." Ben activated the Omnitrix, cycling through available transformations. "Time to see how these new Saiyan upgrades affect mobility options. Everyone gather close." He selected Big Chill, the transformation enveloping him in familiar green light now interwoven with golden energy. When the light faded, the resulting form demonstrated the pattern they'd seen earlier, the Necrophrygians. Moth-like body now featured more defined musculature, golden energy veins running through the blue exoskeleton, and eyes that burned with frost and power simultaneously. "Interesting," his dual-toned voice observed, examining clawed hands that radiated both extreme cold and Saiyan energy. "Big Chill with a power boost. Let's see what this form can do." Ben extended his wings, which now featured intricate energy patterns across their surface. Charmcaster created a magical platform that lifted her and Kai, while Caulifla simply surrounded herself with ki and levitated effortlessly. "Show off," Ben commented to the Saiyan warrior, who responded with a smirk. "You're the one who turned into a giant moth," she countered. Not exactly subtle, they ascended above Bellwood's merged skyline, gaining perspective on the true scale of the convergence. From this height, the city resembled a patchwork quilt of two realities, sections of Earth transitioning into equivalent areas from Universe 6 with increasing seamlessness. The dimensional boundaries were no longer merely thinning, they were dissolving completely. In the direction of Bellwood University, a massive energy disturbance was visible even to normal human perception, a swirling vortex of power that connected the sky to the ground through a column of shifting light. Within the column, shadowy figures moved with purpose, their AC tions coordinated around a central point. "That's definitely a resonance point being established," Charmcaster confirmed, magical energy gathering around her hands as she maintained their platform. Quote, "They're anchoring something between dimensions." Ben adjusted his course toward the disturbance, the enhanced Necrophrygian form cutting through air with unprecedented speed. "Whatever they're doing, we need to disrupt it before." His warning was interrupted as reality itself seemed to hiccup, a momentary discontinuity that affected everyone differently. Ben felt his transformation flicker, briefly revealing his human form before the Omnitrix stabilized. Charmcaster's platform wavered, nearly dissipating before she reinforced it with additional magic. Caulifla's flight faltered, her ki briefly dispersing before she reasserted control. "What was that?" Kai demanded, gripping the edge of the magical platform with white knuckles. "Dimensional shear," Charmcaster explained grimly. "The boundaries between universes are becoming critically unstable. We're experiencing moments where conflicting physical laws attempt to assert dominance. All the more reason to stop whatever they're doing at the university, Ben concluded. Pressing forward despite the unsettling experience. As they approached the campus, the extent of the incursion became clear. The university grounds had become a le ground between realities, buildings half transformed into structures from Universe 6, vegetation shifting between Earth species and alien flora, and at the center, a massive crystalline structure that hadn't existed hours earlier. Surrounding this central anomaly, at least a dozen of the featureless entities worked in geometric patterns, their movements synchronized as they established the resonance point. There are more of them than before, Ben observed, assessing the tactical situation. And they're further along in whatever ritual or technology they're implementing. Caulifla's hands began glowing with concentrated energy. Then we hit them hard and fast, disrupt their formation before they can complete it. Not so simple, Charmcaster cautioned. See how the energy flows between them. Disrupting it incorrectly could accelerate the convergence rather than halting it. Kai studied the scene with intense focus, comparing the patterns to images on her digital tablet. The arrangement matches descriptions from the Chronos Codex. They're creating what's translated as a bridge foundation, a stable point where both universes can permanently coexist. Which sounds almost positive, Ben noted cautiously. Except for the part where this Zenith character wants to absorb everything afterward. They landed on a relatively stable section of campus, concealing themselves behind a partially transformed building while finalizing their approach. Ben reverted to human form, the Omnitrix recharging as they planned their next move. According to the tablet, Kai continued, referencing her notes. The resonance points can be disrupted by introducing contradictory energy patterns at specific nodes in their formation. Charmcaster nodded in understanding. Magical countermeasures against dimensional engineering. If I can identify the primary nodes, I could introduce destabilizing spells. And I can provide the firepower to keep them busy while you work, Caulifla added. Cracking her knuckles with anticipation. Ben studied the Omnitrix, which had fully recharged. I should transform into something with energy projection capabilities, test how these Saiyan enhancements affect ranged combat. What about feedback? Kai suggested, surprising Ben with her knowledge of his alien roster. At his questioning look, she shrugged. I've kept tabs on your career. Professional interest in extraordinary phenomena. Quote, feedback could work, Ben agreed, selecting the conductoid transformation. His energy absorption and redirection abilities might be particularly effective against these dimensional entities. As the transformation sequence completed, the Saiyan enhanced feedback emerged, the antenna-like appendages now glowing with golden energy, body more muscular, and electrical currents visibly running beneath the black surface of his skin. Ben flexed his fingers, feeling unprecedented power flowing through the conductoid form. Everyone clear on the plan, he confirmed, receiving nods from his companions. Charmcaster identifies the nodes, Caulifla and I provide distraction and protection, Kai guides us based on the tablet's information. Simple enough until something inevitably goes wrong. Such optimism, Caulifla remarked dryly. No wonder you've survived so long. Experience, Ben corrected with a grin that showed feedback's teeth. Let's move. They emerged from cover simultaneously, each heading toward predetermined positions. The Chronos collective entities immediately detected their presence, several breaking formation to intercept while others maintained the resonance pattern. Caulifla struck first, launching a barrage of energy blasts that forced the approaching entities to divide their attention. Ben followed immediately, feedback. K's enhanced abilities allowing him to absorb ambient dimensional energy from the air itself before redirecting it in concentrated beams. Unlike their previous encounter, these attacks had visible effect, the combined Saiyan energy disrupting the entities' quasi-physical forms. One dissolved entirely when caught between Caulifla's ki blast and feedback's energy beam, its blank face displaying some thing akin to surprise before disintegrating. The Saiyan energy definitely hurts them, Ben called out, leaping between two entities and absorbing their dimensional attacks before redirecting the energy back with amplified force. Their physical forms can't fully compensate for the foreign power signature. Less analysis, more fighting. Caulifla responded, her battle lust evident as she engaged three entities simultaneously. Moving with a fighter's grace that merged raw power with precise technique. While they occupied the defensive forces, Charmcaster worked her way toward the crystalline structure. Magical energy flowing from her hands in complex patterns as she identified the resonance nodes. Kai moved behind her, comparing the energy formation to diagrams on her tablet and providing guidance. There, Kai pointed to a junction where energy streams converged. That's one of the primary stabilization points. According to the text, disrupting it requires opposing magical frequencies. Charmcaster nodded, channeling silver-violet energy into precisely crafted spells. I see the pattern now. They're using a pentahedral formation with cascading energy links. Clever, but not impervious. She launched her spell, a complex weave of counter-resonant magic that struck the node directly. The effect was immediate, a discordant pulse that rippled through the entire formation, causing several energy streams to waver and flicker. The remaining entities responded with increased urgency, their movements becoming more aggressive as they attempted to stabilize the disrupted node. R broke away from the formation entirely, converging on Charmcaster with clear intent to eliminate the threat. Hope, incoming, Ben warned, feedback's enhanced senses detecting the danger. He redirected his efforts, launching himself between the sorceress and the approaching entities. His antenna connected with the nearest threat, absorbing its dimensional energy directly from its form. The entity writhed, its featureless face contorting as its power was drained. Rather than simply redirecting the absorbed energy, Ben felt the Saiyan aspects of his enhanced form instinctively processing the power, analyzing, adapting, and improving it before releasing it back in a devastating counterattack. The resulting blast didn't merely disrupt the remaining entities, it shattered them completely. Their forms dissolving into particles that scattered across dimensions. That's new, Ben observed, examining his hands as they crackled with evolved energy. Feedback could always absorb and redirect. But this is different, like I'm actually improving the energy passing through my system. Saiyan adaptation at work, Caulifla explained, joining them after dispatching her opponents. IEs naturally analyze combat techniques and energy patterns, then enhance them. You're combining that trait with your aliens' existing abilities. Before they could capitalize on their advantage, the crystalline structure at the center of the formation pulsed with blinding light. The remaining entities abandoned their individual positions, merging into the central matrix as the resonance pattern reconfigured itself. They're adapting too, Charmcaster warned, magical shields forming around their group as reality distorted dangerously. Consolidating power into fewer nodes for greater stability. Kai frantically scrolled through translated sections of the tablet. This is mentioned in the text, a contingency called unified resonance. They're sacrificing complexity for raw power. The crystalline structure began to transform, its geometric patterns shifting into something more organic, a massive, vaguely humanoid form comprised of interlocking dimensional fragments. As it rose from the ground, towering over the campus at nearly 30 feet tall, features began to resolve across its surface, countless versions of the blank faces they'd fought, now unified into a single entity. Well, that's definitely something going wrong, Ben commented, feedback's form tensing in preparation. Anyone have specific advice for fighting a giant crystalline dimension monster? Hit it until it breaks, Caulifla suggested, already gathering impressive amounts of energy between her palms. Actually, Kai interrupted, the tablet mentions this manifestation. It's called a convergence guardi, a defensive measure when resonance points are threatened. Its structure contains a central core that coordinates the dimensional energies. Charmcaster studied the massive entity with magical sight. I can see it, there, in the chest cavity, a concentrated nexus of dimensional power. So we target the core, Ben concluded, feedback's antennae extending as he prepared to absorb and redirect energy. Caulifla, can you create an opening? Your raw power might be able to penetrate its outer defenses. The Saiyan warrior grinned fiercely. With pleasure, she launched herself skyward, sir, rounding her body in a brilliant aura as she gathered power. The Guardian tracked her movement, multiple arms forming from its crystalline body to swat at the approaching threat. Caulifla dodged with practiced ease, her battle experience evident in every movement. Is she always this enthusiastic about fighting? Kai asked, watching the Saiyan warrior with a mixture of awe and concern. Saiyans live for battle, Ben replied, remembering what Caulifla had explained earlier. It's literally encoded in their DNA. as Caulifla unleashed a massive energy wave against the Guardian's upper body. Ben took advantage of the distraction to circle behind, feedback's enhanced speed allowing him to move almost faster than the eye could track. He reached the creature's back, antenna connecting dire CTLY with its crystalline surface to begin absorbing energy. The sensation was overwhelming, dimensional power flowing into his system at rates that would have overloaded the normal conductoid form. The Saiyan enhancements adapted instantaneously, his body processing and refining the energy even as he absorbed more. The core is fluctuating, Charmcaster called out, maintaining a magical bar wire around herself and Kai as debris rained down from Caulifla's assault. It's trying to stabilize the dimensional frequencies. If we disrupt its pattern, on it, Ben responded, channeling the ABS-orbed energy through his enhanced conductoid physiology. He could feel the dimensional power being transformed as it passed through him, Saiyan adaptability combining with feedback's natural abilities to create something unprecedented. When he released the energy back into the Guardian's system, it wasn't a simple redirection. The power had been fundamentally altered, carrying the signature of both universes simultaneously, a hybridized energy that the single-purpose Guardian couldn't process. The effect was immediate and catastrophic for the entity. Fracture lines spread across its crystalline form. Dimensional energy leaking from widening cracks as conflicting realities fought for dominance within its structure. The core pulsed erratically, struggling to maintain coherence. Caulifla, sensing the opportunity, concentrated her attack on the destabilized core. "Everyone get clear," she warned, her voice carrying over the cacophony of dimensional energies. "This is going to be messy." Ben disengaged from the Guardian's back, feedback's form leaping clear with enhanced agility. Charmcaster reinforced her magical barrier, encompassing all of them as Caulifla unleashed her full power against the vulnerable target. The Guardian's core shattered with a sound that transcended normal hearing, a dimensional rending that temporarily disrupted all energy patterns within a half-mile radius. The crystalline body collapsed inward, fragmenting into countless shards that dissolved before hitting the ground, returning to the dimensional space between universes from which they had been summoned. As the dust settled, Ben reverted to human form, the Omnitrix timing out after the intense energy manipulation. He felt strangely invigorated rather than exhausted, the Saiyan aspects of his physiology apparently thriving on the combat experience. That, Caulifla declared with evident satisfaction, was almost a decent workout. Despite her bravado, Ben noticed the slight tremor in her hands and the beads of sweat on her forehead, signs that the battle had demanded significant effort even from her. Charmcaster lowered her magical barrier, immediately moving to examine the area where the crystalline structure had stood. The resonance point is disrupted, but not completely eliminated, she assessed, tracing lingering energy patterns with her fingers. They managed to establish partial anchoring before we intervened. Kai joined her, archaeological scanner in hand as she documented the site. It's the same at the other locations where these manifestations have occurred. They, recreating a network of partial connections, like laying groundwork for something larger. A foundation for complete convergence, Ben suggested, the pattern becoming clearer. Each resonance point stabilizes the merger of realities in its vicinity, making it easier to establish the next point. A slow, sarcastic applause interrupted their discussion. The group turned to find a new figure standing atop a nearby building that straddled both universes, half-modern university structure, half-alien architecture. The newcomer's appearance caused Ben's eyes to narrow with recognition. Albedo, he identified, tension evident in his stance. The figure resembled Ben perfectly, save for inverted coloring, white hair instead of brown, red eyes instead of green, and a crimson version of Ben's outfit. He smiled coldly, the expression not reaching his eyes. "Tennyson," he greeted with mock cordiality. "How fascinating to find you at the center of yet another cosmic calamity. Though this time, I must admit, the situation offers unprecedented opportunities." Ben stepped forward, positioning himself protectively in front of the others. "Whatever you're planning, Albedo, now isn't the time. In case you haven't noticed, reality itself is falling apart." "On the contrary," Albedo replied, jumping down from his perch with inhuman grace to land several yards away. "Reality isn't falling apart, it's being reforged. And I've secured my role in its new configuration." As he spoke, red energy flickered across his body, not the mechanical power of his copied Omnitrix, but something organic and familiar. Ben recognized it immediately, his own golden energy responding instinctively to the challenge. "You've found a way to access Saiyan DNA," Ben realized, the implications immediately clear. "You're working with Zenith." Albedo's smile widened. "Not exactly working with. Let's say our interests temporarily align." He required someone with intimate knowledge of Omnitrix functions to ensure the catalyst developed properly. He gestured toward Ben. "That would be you, by the way, the catalyst. The Dragon Saiyan whose emergence was necessary to initiate the final phase of convergence." Caulifla stepped forward, her posture radiating threatening intent. "Another fake Saiyan. Your energy signature is flawed, artificial." "Perhaps," Albedo acknowledged with an unconcerned shrug. "But sufficient for my purposes. Unlike Tennyson, I understand precisely what's happening to my physiology and how to control it." He demonstrated by manifesting a sphere of red energy that pulsed with both Saiyan power and something else, a dimensional resonance that matched the energy they'd just fought. The Chronos Collective provided quite educational insights into dimensional manipulation. "Combined with my own genius and this new genetic potential, you're helping an interdimensional entity destroy two universes," Charmcaster interrupted, disgust evident in her voice. "Even for you, that's a new low." "Destroy?" Albedo laughed, the sound genuinely amused. "Is that what you think is happening? How characteristically limited your perspective is. Zenith isn't destroying anything, he's restoring what was artificially sundered. Returning reality to its original, unified state. With himself as the controlling consciousness," Kai added, recalling the tablet's warnings. "Subjugating all existence to his will." Albedo waved dismissively. "Details. What matters is the power this convergence offers, and my guaranteed position in the new order of things." Ben activated the Omnitrix, cycling through transformations. "Not happening, Albedo. Whatever you and Zenith have planned, we're stopping it here." "Are you?" Albedo questioned mildly. "Because from my perspective, you're doing exactly what was intended. Every time you use that enhanced Omnitrix, every battle that pushes your Saiyan abilities further, you advance the very process you're trying to halt." The accusation landed like a physical blow, causing Ben to hesitate with his finger above the transformation dial. "What are you talking about? The Dragon Saiyan isn't meant to stop the convergence, Tennyson. It's meant to complete it." Albedo's expression carried genuine delight at Ben's confusion. "Why do you think Zenith engineered your specific genetic combination? The Omnitrix's transformation capabilities combi. Ned with Saiyan adaptive potential creates the perfect vessel for primal instinct." "And what exactly is primal instinct?" Ben demanded, though part of him feared he already knew the answer. "The K. Why that unlocks the final seal between dimensions," Albedo replied simply. "The power that existed before reality was divided. Raw, unlimited potential that transcends the laws of any single universe." He gestured to the increasingly unstable reality around them, where the boundaries between universes continued to blur and merge. "This convergence isn't just about smashing two realities together. It's about creating the specific conditions necessary for primal instinct to manifest. And you, Tennyson, are the uniquely qualified container." Charmcaster's eyes widened with realization. The hybrid form, a being capable of channeling powers from both dimensional systems simultaneously. "Precisely," Albedo confirmed. "Neither pure human with Omnitrix nor pure Saiyan would suffice. The L requires the adaptability of transformation technology combined with the evolutionary potential of Saiyan biology, merged into a single consciousness capable of withstanding the power." Ben's mind raced, processing implications that grew more disturbing with each revelation. "So every time I transform, every battle that pushes these new abilities, you're one step closer to becoming what Zenith requires," Albedo completed with evident satisfaction. Though the process could be accelerated with proper motivation. Without warning, he transformed, not with an Omnitrix device but through some internal mechanism that rippled across his body with red energy. His form shifted into a Saiyan-enhanced version of Heat Blast, similar to what Ben had used during their first encounter with the dimensional entities, but with crimson flames interwoven with darker energy. "Allow me to provide that motivation," Albedo offered, hands igniting with concentrated fire and dimensional power. Ben completed his own transformation. Emerald light engulfing him as he selected Diamond Head, the crystalline form materializing with now familiar Saiyan enhancements. Golden energy ran through the silicon-based body in intricate patterns. The crystalline structures sharper and more defined than in standard form. Get to safety, he instructed the others. If what he's saying is true, we need to rethink our approach completely. Caulifla looked ready to argue, battle lust evident in her stance, but Charmcaster placed a restraining hand on her arm. He's right. If fighting accelerates Ben's transformation into this vessel, we need strategy more than direct confrontation right now. Reluctantly, the Saiyan warrior nodded, though her expression promised future discussion on the matter. She joy. Ned Charmcaster and Kai in retreating to a safer distance, though all remained close enough to intervene if necessary. Albedo attacked without further preamble, launching streams of enhanced fire. Chi burned hot enough to melt even Diamond Head's crystalline form. Ben countered by generating crystal barriers, simultaneously extending bladed appendages from his arms as he closed distance. Your friends are wise to be concerned. Albedo taunted as they exchanged blows, his enhanced pyronite form matching the Saiyan Petrosapian in strength and speed. Every transformation pushes your system closer to the threshold. Every battle adaptation brings primal instinct nearer to awakening. Ben landed a solid hit, crystal blade slicing through Albedo's flaming shoulder before the wound regenerated almost instantly. If that's true, why fight me at all? Shouldn't you be helping me reach this threshold? Albedo laughed, the sound distorted through his transformed vocal apparatus. Because forced evolution results in unstable manifestation. Zenith requires a vessel that reaches the threshold naturally, through genuine adaptation and growth. He launched another fire attack, this one infused WITH dimensional energy that phased through Ben's crystal shield. My role is to provide appropriate challenges without pushing you beyond what your system can currently handle. The battle intensified, both combatants demonstrating mastery of their enhanced forms. Ben found his Diamond Head transformation responding differently than in previous encounters, the crystalline body growing and adapting during combat. Saiyan energy reinforcing molecular bonds that would normally shatter under such punishment. With each exchange, Ben felt something stirring deep within his consciousness, a power beyond the combined capabilities of the Omnitrix and Saiyan biology, watching from beneath layers of evolutionary constraint. The sensation was both exhilarating and terrifying, like standing at the edge of an unfathomable abyss that promised either transcendence or annihilation. Albedo sensed the change, his attacks becoming more precisely calibrated, pushing Ben's adaptations without triggering complete transformation. Feel it, don't you? The edge of something greater than either of our universes ever allowed. That's primal instinct stirring, Tennyson, the power that existed before division, before limitation. Ben responded with a barrage of crystal projectiles, each infused with golden energy that honed in on Albedo with unprecedented accuracy. If what you're saying is true, then using his power would just be playing into Zenith's hands. Perhaps, Albedo acknowledged, evading most projectiles while melting others with concentrated flame. Or perhaps once you access such power, Zenith's plans become irrelevant. Who could control a being that transcends dimensional constraints? The implication hung between them, a temptation wrapped in logical argument. Ben recognized the manipulation tactic. Having faced similar reasoning from enemies before. Not interested in cosmic power, Albedo. I just want both our universes to survive intact. Noble, but short-sighted, Albedo replied. Gathering energy for a more powerful attack. When presented with evolutionary leaps, clinging to the familiar is rarely the optimal choice. The conversation ended as Albedo unleashed his accumulated power, a spiraling vortex of flame and dimensional energy that engulfed the entire area. Ben responded instinctively, Diamond Head's crystalline form channeling Saiyan energy to create a dome of Olden infused silicon that expanded outward, countering the firestorm with equal force. The resulting collision of energies created a shockwave that rippled through multiple planes of reality, airily stabilizing the convergence zones around them while destabilizing others further away. When the light and pressure faded, both combatants stood at impasse, their enhanced forms showing evidence of the intense exchange. Albedo reverted to his human appearance first, straightening his crimson jacket with casual precision. A productive initial assessment, he declared, as though they'd engage in scientific experimentation rather than combat. Your adaptive rate exceeds projected models. Fascinating. Ben maintained his diamond head form, unwilling to lower defenses while Albedo remained in proximity. Is that all this is to you? Some experiment in evolutionary biology? Hardly, Albedo replied with a thin smile. It's the most significant convergence of multiverse theory and practical application in known history. Your primitive conceptualization hardly does it justice. Before Ben could respond, reality itself rippled around them, a more profound dimensional shear than previous occurrences. Buildings throughout the campus fluctuated between states, some vanishing entirely before reappearing in altered configurations. The sky darkened momentarily, stars from both universes, briefly visible in impossible constellation patterns before daylight reasserted itself. Albedo glanced upward, satisfaction evident in his expression. Right on schedule. Phase 2 manifestation is beginning. What does that mean? Ben demanded, crystal hands clenching in frustration. It means our little demonstration has served its purpose, Albedo replied cryptically. The resonance network is recalibrating based on your development curve. Quite efficient, really. He stepped backward, reality distorting around him as a dimensional rift began forming. We'll continue this educational process soon, Tennyson. In the meantime, I suggest reconciling yourself to your role in what's coming. Fighting evolutionary imperative only increases systemic strain. Albedo. Wait, Ben started forward. But the rift collapsed before he could reach it, leaving nothing but disturbed air where his nemesis had stood. Caulifla, Charmcaster, and Kai approached as Ben reverted to human form, the Omnitrix timing out with its familiar beep. All three women wore expressions of concern mixed with determination. How much of that should we believe? Charmcaster asked, magical energy still crackling round her fingertips from maintaining defensive spells during the confrontation. Albedo lies when it serves him, Ben acknowledged, but this fits with everything we've learned so far. The Chronos Codex, the dimensional entities. Zenith's interest in creating this specific hybrid form. The tablet mentioned a vessel, Kai confirmed, checking her notes. A bridge between worlds that walks as flesh, is the literal translation. I thought it was metaphorical, but if what Albedo claims is true, then every fight is making Ben more suitable for this primal instinct to manifest, Charmcaster concluded grimly. Which means our entire approach needs reconsideration. Caulifla had remained uncharacteristically quiet, her expression thoughtful as she studied Ben with new assessment. In my universe, she finally said, there are legends about the original state of existence, before gods, before universes divided. A state of perfect potential where will and reality were indistinguishable. The Chronos Codex describes something similar, Kai added. A primordial condition where energy, matter, and consciousness existed without division or constraint. Which sounds almost theological, Ben observed. Except we're dealing with a very real entity trying to recreate this state with himself in control. Another dimensional tremor shook the campus, this one lasting longer than previous occurrences. When it subsided, they found themselves standing in a landscape that was neither fully Earth nor planet Sadala, but a stable integration of both, architecture, vegetation, and even physical laws blending into something new. The convergence is accelerating, Charmcaster noted, magical senses extended to assess their surroundings. But it's not random anymore. There's a pattern emerging. The merging is becoming more harmonious. Because of what happened during our fight, Ben realized, Albedo's words gaining credibility with each observation. The resonance network is adapting based on the energy we generated. Quote, Kai's archaeological scanner beeped, drawing their attention to readings that fluctuated between recognizable patterns. These energy signatures match fragments found at the temple site. The convergence is following a preset evolutionary path, like it's being guided by some ancient template. Which means Zenith has been planning this for far longer than we realized, Charmcaster concluded. Possibly since the original sundering of reality that the texts mention. Ben felt the weight of cosmic implications settling on his shoulders, responsibility he hadn't asked for but couldn't ethically reject. If what Albedo claimed was true, his very existence had become instrumental to Zenith's plans, each transformation and battle bringing the mysterious primal instinct closer to manifestation. We need to get back to Gwen's apartment, he decided. Compare what we've learned with whatever Kevin and Gwen have discovered. If I'm somehow key to this convergence, we need to understand exactly how my transformations are affecting the process. As they prepared to depart, Caulifla approached Ben directly, her expression uncharacteristically serious. Before we go, there's something you should know about Saiyan biology that might be relevant. Ben raised an eyebrow, waiting for her to continue. We have transformation states beyond our base form, she explained. Super Saiyan levels that multiply power exponentially by releasing constraints on our genetic potential. If your hybrid physiology includes that capability, and it combines with your Omnitrix transformations, the power scaling would be astronomical, Ben finished, understanding immediately. Each alien form already has unique capabilities, multiplied by Saiyan transformation factors. Caulifla nodded, which might be exactly what this primal instinct requires, a being capable of transcending normal dimensional constraints through unprecedented power combinations. The implication hung between them as they made their way back through the increasingly merged landscape of Bellwood. If Ben's transformations were accelerating the convergence, then conventional combat approaches would only hasten whatever Zenith had planned. Yet inaction wasn't an option when dimensional entities continued establishing resonance points throughout both universes. They needed a new strategy, one that acknowledged Ben's central role in the crisis while finding a way to use that position against Zenith's plans rather than unwittingly furthering them. As they traversed the altered city, Ben noticed something else: civilians from both universes adapting with surprising resilience to their merged reality. Humans and aliens from Universe 6 cautiously interacting, establishing improvised systems for coexistence amid the chaos. It reminded him of countless adaptive responses he'd witnessed throughout his hero career, people's remarkable capacity to normalize even the most extraordinary circumstances. They're adjusting, he observed, indicating a scene where a human shopkeeper and an alien customer used improvised sign language to communicate about merchandise. Not just surviving, but actually finding ways to integrate. Sentient beings adapt, Kai noted, her anthropological training evident in her assessment. It's what allowed civilizations to survive catastrophic changes throughout history. The question is whether this adaptation is part of Zenith's plan or an unexpected variable, Charmcaster mused. If people are naturally integrating without the need for complete dimensional collapse, then maybe there's a middle path, Ben completed her thought. A way to stabilize the convergence without allowing Zenith to absorb everything. The possibility offered a glimmer of hope amid increasingly dire revelations. If Zenith's endgame required complete dimensional dissolution for him to absorb all reality, then perhaps a balanced, stable convergence would prevent that outcome while preserving aspects of both universes. They arrived at Gwen's apartment to find it transformed into a hub of activity. Kevin had apparently returned with both supplies and reinforcements. Rook Blanco stood examining holographic displays of dimensional energy patterns, while Gwen consulted ancient texts with focused intensity. Equipment from both universes filled the living space, some devices clearly hybridized with technology that hadn't existed hours earlier. There you are, Gwen greeted with evident relief. We were about to send out search parties. The communication networks are completely unreliable now. We ran into complications, Ben explained, quickly introducing Kai to those who hadn't met her. And we've learned some disturbing things about my role in all this. As they shared information, Albedo's appearance, the revelations about primal instinct, the implications for Ben's transformations, the assembled group's expressions grew increasingly concerned. This matches what we've discovered through other channels, Rook confirmed, his normally precise manner slightly strained by the unprecedented situation. The plumbers, Deep Space Monitoring Street, Asians detected temporal anomalies preceding the convergence, ripples in causality that originated from a point outside normal spacetime. Zenith's domain, Ben suggested, the pieces fitting together. He's been preparing this for longer than we realized. Kevin gestured to a modified scanner built from components of multiple technological origins. We managed to analyze energy patterns from several convergence zones. There's a recursive sequence building, each merged area establishing harmonic resonance with others, creating a self-reinforcing pattern. Like a chain reaction, Gwen added, but following specific parameters rather than random expansion. The magical currents are being channeled along predetermined pathways. Charmcaster moved to examine Gwen's mystical diagrams, immediately recognizing the significance. These are mana flow patterns seen in ancient legerdemain texts, descriptions of how reality was originally structured before the dimensional sundering. So Zenith is literally reversing creation, Kai observed, connecting archaeological knowledge with current events, unmaking the divisions between universes to restore some primordial state, with himself as the controlling consciousness. Ben reminded them, Albedo's revelations still fresh in his mind. And apparently, I'm meant to be the key that unlocks the final stage, this primal instinct that bridges dimensions. Which explains why your Omnitrix encountered Saiyan DNA during the initial convergence, Rook reasoned. Not random chance, but deliberate engineering. The group fell silent, processing implications that extended beyond anything they'd previously faced. Not merely a threat to Earth or even their universe, but to the fundamental structure of reality itself. So what do we do? Kevin finally asked, voicing the question on everyone's mind. If fighting these things only accelerates the process, but doing nothing lets Zenith complete his plan anyway. We find a third option, Ben decided. Determination replacing uncertainty in his expression. If I'm meant to be the catalyst for this convergence, then maybe I can influence how it unfolds. Direct it toward stability rather than dissolution. Is that even possible? Caulifla questioned, though without her usual challenging tone. Controlling a process this complex would require understanding it completely. Which is why we need to gather more information, Ben replied. About primal instinct, about Zenith, about how my specific hybrid form is meant to function in his plans. Gwen's expression brightened with sudden inspiration. There might be someone who could help with that. Someone who understands the Omnitrix's capabilities better than anyone. Azimuth, Ben realized immediately. If anyone would know how this Saiyan integration affects the Omnitrix's core functions, it would be him. Assuming we can reach Galvan Prime through the dimensional distortions, Rook cautioned. Interstellar travel has become increasingly hazardous as the convergence progresses. We don't need to reach Galvan Prime, Kevin contradicted, moving to a modified communications array. After previous universal-scale threats, Azimuth established quantum-entangled communication channels for emergency contact. They should function regardless of dimensional interference. As Kevin activated the system, Ben felt another surge of the strange energy that had been growing within him since the transformation began. Unlike the aggressive pulses from earlier, this manifestation felt more controlled, responding to focused intent rather than emotional triggers. The communication array sparked with green energy, the display fluctuating before stabilizing into an image of Azimuth's laboratory. The Galvan creator of the Omnitrix appeared immediately, his expression suggesting he was already aware of the situation. Ben Tennyson, he greeted, characteristic acerbity tempered by evident concern. I was wondering when you would contact me regarding your genetic modification. The Omnitrix has been sending automated diagnostic alerts for the past 12 hours. Then you know what's happening to me, Ben responded, relief evident in his voice. This Saiyan DNA integration, how it's affecting the Omnitrix's functions. I know that an unprecedented cross-dimensional genetic merger has occurred, Azimuth clarified, resulting in modifications to both your baseline human DNA and the Omnitrix's transformation matrix. What I don't know is how such integration bypassed safety protocols specifically designed to prevent permanent genetic alteration. Ben quickly explained the circumstances, the dimensional entities, the initial convergence, and Zenith's apparent orchestration of events to create the Dragon Saiyan hybrid. Azimuth's expression grew increasingly troubled as he absorbed the information. This confirms my worst suspicions. The Omnitrix's core programming has been fundamentally altered. Why the dimensional energies involved in this convergence? It's no longer merely sampling and temporarily applying alien DNA, it's evolving alongside your hybrid physiology. Is there any way to reverse the process? Gwen asked, concern for her cousin evident. Azimuth's hesitation answered before his words. Not without risking complete genetic collapse. The integration has progressed too far. Your cousin's DNA and the Saiyan genetic material are now interdependent at a cellular level. So I'm stuck this way, Ben concluded, the confirmation of permanence settling like a weight. But what about these transformations? If what Albedo said is true, Each time I use the Omnitrix, I'm advancing Zenith's plans for this primal instinct manifestation. Primal instinct, Azimuth repeated, the term clearly significant to him. There are references to such a concept in ancient Galvan theoretical texts, a hypothesized state of consciousness that predated dimensional separation. But it was considered purely theoretical, impossible to achieve within the constraints of any single universe's physical laws. Which is apparently why Zenith needed to create this specific hybrid form, Ben reasoned. A being capable of transcending those constraints. Azimuth nodded slowly. The combination of Omnitrix transformation technology and Saiyan adaptive biology creates unprecedented potential. Your consciousness has experience navigating multiple forms of existence, while the Saiyan aspects provide evolutionary capability beyond normal biological limitations. Can the process be controlled? Charmcaster asked, stepping into view of the communication array. If Ben is destined to manifest this primal instinct, is there any way to direct how it develops? Azimuth studied her with interest before responding. Theoretically, yes. The Omnitrix was designed with precise control mechanisms that might be adapted to this new paradigm. But it would require recalibration at a fundamental level, adjustments I cannot make remotely. So I need to reach Galvan Prime, Ben concluded. Not necessarily, Azimuth countered. The Omnitrix contains all necessary components for recalibration. What did Riku? Iris is the correct evolutionary catalyst, a specific combination of energies that would stabilize the integration process rather than accelerating it toward Zenith's desired outcome. And what combination is that? Ben pressed. I don't know precisely, Azimuth admitted, the acknowledgement clearly difficult for the prideful Galvan. This convergence involves elements outside my area of expertise. Dimensional mechanics that even Galvan science has barely theorized about. But you must have some hypothesis, Gwen prompted. Some direction we could explore. Azimuth's expression shifted to one of reluctant speculation. Based on the information you've provided, I believe the key lies in achieving balance rather than maximum power. Zenith seeks to manifest primal instinct as a force of dissolution, breaking down the barriers between dimensions completely. If you could instead harness it as a stabilizing influence, we might be able to establish a sustainable convergence, Ben completed the thought. A merger that preserves aspects of both universes without allowing complete collapse. Precisely, Azimuth confirmed, but achieving such balance would require mastery of both the Omnitrix's transformation capabilities and the Saiyan aspects of your new physiology, not merely power, but perfect integration of disparate energy systems. The communication began to deteriorate, dimensional interference finally affecting even the quantum-entangled channel. Azimuth's image flickered as he offered final advice. Trust the Omnitrix's adaptive protocols, Ben. They were designed to protect and enhance life, not destroy it. Whatever Zenith has planned, remember that the device responds to your deepest intentions, not merely surface thoughts. Its evolution will follow. The transmission cut off completely, leaving the group with partial guidance but renewed determination. Ben looked down at the Omnitrix, its symbol pulsing with the now familiar combination of green and gold energies. Balance rather than maximum power, he repeated thoughtfully. That's not typically the Saiyan approach to problem solving. Caulifla crossed her arms, though her expression was more contemplative than defensive. Traditional Saiyan methods focus on overwhelming force, true. But the strongest warriors in our history achieved their greatest power through mental discipline and emotional control, not just raw strength. Which aligns with how the Omnitrix functions best, Gwen added. It's always responded most effectively when you're centered and focused, not when you're acting on impulse or anger. Ben nodded, pieces falling into place. So instead of fighting these transformations or rushing headlong into them, I need to develop mastery, control over both aspects simultaneously. A training regimen combining Saiyan techniques and Omnitrix functionality, Rook suggested, already mapping potential approaches on a nearby terminal. Perhaps supplemented with magical stability practices. I can help with the magical components, Charmcaster offered, surprising herself almost as much as the others with her voluntary assistance. Legerdemain's texts contain exercises for balancing disparate energy sources. And I'll guide your Saiyan development, Caulifla declared, the challenge evidently appealing to her warrior nature. Though my teaching methods aren't gentle, Kevin chuckled. When are they ever? Pretty sure. Gentle isn't in the Saiyan vocabulary. As they began outlining a training approach, another dimensional tremor shook the building, stronger than previous occurrences. Lasting nearly 30 seconds. When it subsided, they found the apartment partially transformed, sections of walls and furniture replaced with equivalents from Universe 6. Outside the window, Bellwood's skyline had changed dramatically, now featuring a harmonious blend of Earth architecture and alien structures that somehow functioned as a cohesive whole. The convergence is stabilizing in certain areas, Kai observed, scanner recording the changes. Not reversing, but settling into sustainable patterns. Which means we have an opportunity, Ben concluded. If parts of THE convergence can naturally find balance, maybe we can guide the process toward stability rather than collapse. As they discussed next steps, Ben felt the strange energy within him responding differently, no longer pushing toward explosive manifestation but settling into rhythmic pulses that matched his heartbeat. Whether through Azimuth's guidance or his own evolving understanding, he sensed a path forward that didn't require either surrendering to Zenith's plans or futilely fighting against cosmic-scale events. The Dragon Saiyan might indeed be key to Primal Instinct's awakening, but perhaps that awakening could take a form Zenith never anticipated. Chapter 2 End Chapter 3, Training Intentions. Dawn broke over a Bellwood that existed in two universes simultaneously. Sunlight filtered through an atmosphere tinged with the crimson hues of planet Sadala, casting everything in a warm, otherworldly glow. Dew collected on grass that had evolved overnight to thrive in the merged environment. Its blades stronger and more vibrant than purely earth vegetation. In a clearing beside Gwen's apartment building, now an architectural hybrid of earth design and Sadalan engineering, Ben Teniso hit the ground hard for the 7th time that morning. Sweat streaked his face as he rolled to avoid Caulifla's follow-up strike, the Saiyan warrior's fist creating a small crater where his head had been seconds earlier. Too slow, she criticized, not even breathing heavily despite 2 hours of continuous training. Your body's capable of much more. Stop thinking like a human. Ben pushed himself upright, muscles trembling with a combination of exhaustion and the strange new energy flowing through his system. Easy for you to say. You've been Saiyan your entire life. And you've been transforming into different species for years, Caulifla countered, settling into another combat stance. This isn't fundamentally different, except the power remains yours even when you're not actively transformed. She launched forward without warning, her movement almost too fast for normal perception. Ben reacted on instinct, his body shifting to an unfamiliar defensive position that shouldn't have been in his muscle memory. Their forearms connected with a shockwave that scattered nearby leaves. Better, Caulifla acknowledged, genuine approval flickering across her face before her expression hardened again. But still reactive instead of proactive. A true Saiyan seizes initiative. Ben disengaged, creating distance to reassess. 3 days had passed since their confrontation with Albedo. 3 days of intensive training as they prepared for whatever came next. The dimensional convergence had reached a temporary plateau, neither reversing nor accelerating, but settling into semi-STA. BLE patterns throughout Bellwood and beyond. I'm trying to integrate two completely different fighting philosophies, Ben explained, circling cautiously. As a hero, I've always been about minimum necessary force. Saiyans seem more focused on maximum possible impact. Caulifla's eyes narrowed, though a hint of amusement played at the corners of her mouth. Our philosophies aren't as different as you think. Both require precision, knowing exactly how much power to apply for the desired outcome. She demonstrated by firing a pinpoint energy blast that singed a single hair from Ben's head without touching his skin. The difference is that Saiyans don't artificially limit their upper capacity. Ben conceded the point with a nod, then surprised her by immediately closing distance. His right hand glowed with golden energy as he channeled ki into his strike, a technique she'd demonstrated yesterday that he shouldn't have mastered so quickly. Caulifla barely managed to block, genuine shock registering on her face as the force pushed her back several feet. Like that? Ben asked with a grin that carried newfound confidence. Caulifla's surprise transformed into something more complex, approval mingled with competitive fire. Exactly like that, she confirmed, settling into a more serious stance. Now let's see if you can do it consistently. From the apartment balcony, Charmcaster served the training session with analytical interest, violet eyes tracking energy patterns invisible to normal sight. Beside her, Kai made notes on a tablet, documenting Ben's rapidly developing abilities. His adaptation rate is unprecedented, Charmcaster remarked, fingers absently tracing magical symbols in the air. The energy integration is accelerating with each session. Kai nodded. Compa, ring current readings to yesterday's baseline. The archaeological texts mentioned this, the Dragon Saiyan's capacity for exponential growth. But seeing it in person is something else entirely. It's concerning, Charmcaster admitted, watching as Ben and Caulifla exchanged a series of increasingly powerful blows. If Zenith engineered this transformation specifically to manifest primal instinct, this rapid development might be playing directly into his plans. Or providing exactly what we need to counter him, Kai countered optimistically. Azimuth suggested balance was the key, not power limitation. Below, the sparring session intensified. Caulifla transitioned from physical combat to energy projection, launching a series of key blasts that Ben was forced to dodge and deflect. His movements grew more fluid with each exchange, body adapting to techniques that should have taken months to master. Remember, Caulifla instructed as Ben narrowly avoided a particularly powerful blast. He responds to emotion and will simultaneously channel both, but don't let either control you completely. Ben nodded, centering himself before extending both hands. Golden energy gathered between his palms, erratic at first, then stabilizing into a coherent sphere. With a shout of effort, he launched it toward Caulifla, who deflected it skyward with a practiced motion. Your energy signature is unusual, she noted, studying him with increased interest. Most beginners produce uniform ki, but yours already shows complexity, layers of different frequencies interacting. Probably the Omnitrix's influence, Ben suggested, examining his hands as residual energy flickered between his fingers. It's been part of me for so long that even my natural energy patterns are affected. Caulifla approached, her combative stance relaxing slightly. Show me the device again. Its technology is unlike anything in our universe. Ben extended his wrist, displaying the Omnitrix. Its appearance had continued evolving since the initial transformation, the familiar green hourglass now surrounded by intricate golden patterns that shifted subtly, as though adapting in real time. Azimuth created it to preserve genetic samples of species throughout the universe, Ben explained as Caulifla examined it with unconcealed fascination. But it became something more, a tool for understanding different forms of life through direct experience. By literally becoming them, Caulifla finished, newfound respect in her voice. No wonder your consciousness adapted to Saiyan physiology so quickly. You've been experiencing different biological perspectives for years. Their moment of connection was interrupted as Gwen emerged from the apartment, expression serious. We've got a situation. The dimensional monitoring network just detected a major breach forming downtown. This one's different from previous patterns, more structured, almost like it's being deliberately engineered. Ben immediately shifted focus, the training session forgotten. The Chronos Collective again, likely, Gwen confirmed, but the energy signature has evolved. They're adapting their approach based on our previous encounters. Caulifla cracked her knuckles with anticipation. Finally, some real action instead of training exercises. Don't get too excited, Ben cautioned, already moving toward the apartment. If what Albedo said is true, every battle pushes me closer to whatever Zenith has planned. Which is exactly why we need a strategic approach, Charmcaster called from the balcony. I've been developing containment spells specifically designed to neutralize dimensional entities without requiring excessive power output. Inside the apartment, they found Kevin and Rook coordinating with plumber units worldwide. The dimensional crisis had expanded beyond Bellwood, with convergence zones appearing across Earth and, according to fragmented reports, throughout Universe 6 as well. The good news is that Ost convergence areas are stabilizing naturally, Kevin reported, indicating a global map with color-coded zones. The merged regions are reaching equilibrium without further intervention. And the bad news? Ben asked, already suspecting the answer. Rook gestured to a pulsing red indicator at Bellwood's center. This new breach exhibits characteristics inconsistent with natural convergence patterns. It appears to be a deliberately constructed gateway rather than a random dimensional fracture. Someone's punching a hole between universes, Kevin translated, his expression grim. And based on the energy readings, they're putting serious power behind it. Ben studied the holographic display, tactical assessment coming naturally after years of experience. If this is the Chronos Collective's work, they're changing strategies. Previous breaches were designed to weaken dimensional boundaries gradually. This looks more like a direct invasion point. Exactly, Gwen agreed, bringing up additional data. The magical resonance patterns suggest they're creating a stable transit point large enough for significant forces to move through. Then we need to shut it down before whatever's coming arrives, Ben decided. Turning to address the assembled group. Caulifla, Charmcaster, you're with me for the primary response team. Gwen, Kevin, coordinate secondary containment with Rook and the plumbers in case anything gets past us. What about me? Kai asked, setting aside her research materials. Ben considered briefly before responding. Your archaeological knowledge might help identify what they're trying to create. But stay back from direct engagement. We need your expertise intact. As they prepared equipment and strategies, Charmcaster approached Ben with a small leather pouch. These are specialized runestones I've been preparing, she explained, handing him the container. They're tuned to your unique energy signature and should help stabilize your transformations during intense combat. Ben accepted them with genuine appreciation. Thanks, Hope. Your magical expertise has been invaluable through all this. Something flickered in her violet eyes, a complexity of emotion quickly masked by professional focus. Just trying to preserve reality as we know it, she replied with practiced casualness. Legerdemain can't exist if the dimensional structure collapses completely. Is that the only reason you're helping? Ben asked quietly, insight born from years of complicated history between them. Charmcaster hesitated, uncharacteristic uncertainty crossing her face before she responded. Let's just say I've come to appreciate certain aspects of this reality worth preserving, she finally answered, her gaze holding his for a meaningful moment before she too RNED away to gather additional magical components. Their exchange didn't go unnoticed by Caulifla, whose expression tightened almost imperceptibly before she busied herself with final combat preparations. 20 minutes later, they approached the breach site, Bellwood Central Plaza, now transformed into a surreal hybrid of Earth architecture and Universe 6 design elements. The dimensional tear hovered 10 feet above the ground, a swirling vortex of energy that expanded with each passing moment. Unlike previous breaches, this one maintained perfect geometric stability, its edges defined by T appeared to be technological components merged with organic materials. That's definitely engineered, Ben observed from their observation position atop a nearby building. Those stabilization nodes around the perimeter are regulating the expansion rate. Charmcaster studied the construct with magical sight, her eyes glowing violet as she assessed its structure. It's more than technology. The are thaumaturgical elements integrated into the design. Ancient spell structures I've only seen referenced in Legerdemain's forbidden archives. Any sign of who's building it? Caulifla asked, SC. Anning the plaza with the enhanced senses of a Saiyan warrior. There, Kai pointed, her archaeological training making her adept at spotting anomalies. Northern quadrant of the plaza, those humanoid figures moving between dimensional phases. Ben followed her direction, spotting what they'd missed initially. A dozen entities that resembled the blank-faced beings they'd encountered previously, but with significant evolution. These creatures wore elaborate armor constructed from materials that seemed to exist in multiple states simultaneously, and they moved with military precision rather than the fluid unpredictability of their predecessors. They've adapted, Ben noted grimly. Organized, equipped, and clearly working to a specific plan. The Chronos Collective, Kai confirmed, Compa. Ring the entities to images from her research. The tablet described their evolution during convergence events, from observational agents to active implementers. Charmcaster completed her magical assessment, expression troubled. The breach is approximately 70% complete. Once fully stabilized, it will become permanent, a fixed junction between universes that can't be closed by conventional means. Then we intervene before completion, Ben decided, reaching for the Omnitrix. Charmcaster, can your containment spells work against these evolved entities? Theoretically, she confirmed, magical energy already gathering around her hands. But I'll need to get closer to the primary stabilization nodes. Caulifla's aura flared with battle readiness. I can provide that opportunity. Nothing keeps attention focused like a Saiyan offensive. Ben nodded, cycling through transformation options. I'll take something with ranged capabilities to support both approaches. Swamp Fire Shish. Old work. Plant control for containment plus fire generation for direct engagement. As he activated the transformation, the familiar green light interwoven with gold enveloped him. The resulting 4M demonstrated the now expected Saiyan enhancements. Swampfire's plant-based body more robust, with golden energy flowing through fibrous structures that pulsed with vitality. Flame capabilities manifested with greater intensity. The normally orange fire now tinged with golden energy. Everybody clear on the approach. Ben confirmed, his voice carrying the dual resonance they'd come to associate with his enhanced transformations. Caulifla creates the primary distraction. I provide coverage and secondary containment. Charmcaster targets the stabilization nodes while Kai analyzes the overall structure for vulnerabilities. With roles established, they moved into position. Caulifla didn't wait for additional signals. She launched herself directly toward the plaza in a blazing comet of key energy. Her battle cry drawing immediate attention from the Chronos entities. True to Saiyan nature, her attack was as direct as it was devastating, the first energy blast creating a crater in the center of the plaza. The entities responded with coordinated precision, breaking formation to engage the threat while maintaining minimal coverage of the breach apparatus. Their movements confirmed Ben's assessment. These weren't the semi-autonomous constructs they'd faced earlier, but disciplined forces with tactical awareness. Ben used the distraction to position Charmcaster closer to the breach. Empire's enhanced plant manipulation creating a rapidly growing bridge of vines and roots that provided covered approach. You've got about 30 seconds before they realize this growth isn't natural. He warned as the sorceress moved across the verdant pathway. More than enough time, Charmcaster assured him, already beginning a complex incantation as magical energy gathered around her fingers in intricate patterns. Ben turned his attention to supporting Caulifla, who was systematically drawing the entities away from the breach. Despite their evolution, the Chronos constructs still struggled against pure Saiyan combat prowess. Their coordinated attacks meeting ferocious counter-offensives that exploited every opening. Their armor has vulnerability at joint connections, Ben called out. Swampfire's enhanced perception identifying structural weaknesses. Concentrated energy penetrates where physical attacks bounce off. Caulifla adjusted immediately, her fighting style shifting to target the specified vulnerabilities. Like this, she demonstrated, focusing ki into a precision strike that shattered an entity's armor at the shoulder junction. Exactly, Ben confirmed, launching his own attack, streams of enhanced fire that targeted multiple opponents simultaneously. The golden-tinged flames proved particularly effective, seeming to disrupt the entities, partial phase shiftee capabilities and forcing them into fully materialized states. From her analysis position, Kai provided additional tactical insights. The breach technology has similarities to ancient temporal engines discovered in Peru. The primary power conduits appear to run beneath the plaza surface. Ben processed this information instantly, Swampfire's control over plant life extending into the ground. Massive roots erupted through concrete, wrapping around hidden technological components and disrupting power flow to the breach stabilizers. The dimensional tear fluctuated visibly, its perfect geometric structure wavering as energy supplies faltered. The Chronos entities immediately registered the threat, several breaking off from their engagement with Caulifla to address this new attack vector. They moved with increased urgency, hands shifting into technological implements that began severing the entangling roots. They're adapting to our countermeasures, Ben observed, directing more plant growth to replace damaged sections. Charmcaster, how's the spell coming? Almost there, she replied, final magical sigils forming in complex three-dimensional patterns around the primary stabilization node. But something's wrong. The energy signature is changing, becoming more complex. Before she could elaborate, the breach pulsed with blinding intensity. All activity in the plaza momentarily froze as a wave of dimensional energy washed outward, temporarily disrupting both technology and magic. When vision cleared, a new figure stood before the breach, humanoid but clearly not human, its form shifting subtly between different states of matter. Compliance units. The figure addressed the Chronos entities, its voice resonating on multiple frequencies simultaneously. Containment protocols have been compromised. Initiate contingency sequence Delta. The entities immediately withdrew from individual combat, reforming into a precise geometric pattern around the breach. Their armor began emitting a harmonic resonance that strengthened the dimensional tear rather than stabilizing it, deliberately accelerating its expansion beyond controlled parameters. "They're overloading it," Charmcaster shouted in alarm, abandoning her original spell to cast emergency containment barriers. "If that breach collapses uncontrolled, it could take half the city with it." Ben recognized the CTIC immediately, a scorched earth approach to deny enemies valuable resources. "Everyone fall back. Caulifla, help Charmcaster reinforce the containment from a distance. I'll try to regulate the energy discharge." As they repositioned, the commanding figure turned its attention directly to Ben, its constantly shifting features settling momentarily into a semblance of recognition. "The Catalyst PR. Ogris is ahead of projected development curves," it observed with clinical detachment. "Chronos Prime will be pleased." "Who or what is Chronos Prime?" Ben demanded, Swampfire's form tensing in preparation for whatever came next. "The voice of Zenith, implementer of convergence," the figure replied as though reciting established fact. "You will meet when your vessel state reaches appropriate maturation." Before Ben could press further, the breach's destabilization reached critical levels, energy patterns fluctuating wildly as containment failed. The commanding figure made a precise gesture, opening a smaller, stable portal through which the Chronos entities retreated in perfect formation. "Continuation protocols initiated," it announced before following its subordinates. "The collective anticipates your further development." Dragon Saiyan. With the entities gone, the breach's collapse accelerated, dimensional energies spiraling dangerously as the structure began tearing itself apart. Charmcaster's containment barriers strained against forces they weren't designed to handle, magical energy beginning to fracture under the pressure. "I can't hold it much longer," she called out, voice strained with effort. "The dimensional resonance is too chaotic." Ben assessed options rapidly, Swampfire's limitations becoming apparent against a threat of this magnitude. "I need something with more direct energy manipulation," he decided, slapping the Omnitrix symbol on his chest to trigger transformation. The device responded instantly, green and gold light enveloping him as he shifted into feedback's form, the conductoid physiology emerging with now familiar Saiyan enhancements. Antenna extended toward the collapsing breach, beginning to absorb the chaotic energy discharge. "This might work," Ben called out, channeling the dimensional power through his enhanced body. Feedback can absorb and redirect energy, and the Saiyan aspects seem to be stabilizing the intake rate. Indeed, the combined capabilities proved remarkably effective, the collapsing breach's destructive potential flowing into the conductoid form where Saiyan biology helped process the otherwise overwhelming power. But as the absorption continued, Ben felt something unexpected. The energy carried information, data patterns encoded in dimensional frequencies that registered as fragmented images and concepts in his consciousness. Glimpses of other worlds, timelines, and possibilities flashed through his awareness, Bellwood as it might have been in 1,000 different realities, planet Sadala's history across divergent evolutionary paths. And beneath it all, a presence watching from outside normal spacetime. Zenith's consciousness, vast and ancient, observing the convergence through countless sensory inputs simultaneously. "There's something in the energy," Ben managed to communicate despite the overwhelming sensory input. "Information. Coordinating the convergence across multiple access points." Charmcaster immediately understood the implications. "Don't just absorb it, isolate and contain those data patterns. They could reveal Zenith's complete strategy." Ben focused, feedback's Nadu. Raw abilities combining with his increasingly intuitive grasp of Saiyan energy control. The dimensional information separated from raw power, coalescing into distinguishable patterns that he stored rather than processed directly. Meanwhile, the absorbed energy reached levels that would have overwhelmed the standard conductoid form. "I need to release this power before overload," he warned, antenna redirecting toward the sky. "Everyone brace for atmospheric disruption." The discharge erupted upward in a spectacular pillar of green-gold energy that parted clouds for miles around, temporarily ionizing Bellwood's upper atmosphere. Weather patterns shifted instantly, pressure systems realigning around the massive energy influx as lightning danced between suddenly forming storm clouds. As the final energy dissipated, Ben reverted to human form, the Omnitrix timing out after handling such extraordinary power levels. Unlike previous transformations, however, he didn't experience the usual disorientation or weakness. Instead, he felt energized, his body having efficiently processed the residual dimensional power. That was, he began, searching for adequate description. Impressive, Caulifla finished, approaching with uncharacteristic respect in her expression. You handled energy levels that would challenge experienced Saiyan warriors. The breach is neutralized, Charmcaster confirmed. Magical senses extended to verify dimensional stability. Though this entire area will have heightened convergence effects for some time. Indeed, the plaza had transformed further during the incident. Reality settling into a harmonious blend of both universes, vegetation displaying characteristics impossible in either world alone, materials exhibiting properties that defied conventional physics, and the very air humming with the resonance of merged dimensional frequencies. Kai joined them, archaeological scanner documenting the changes. This matches patterns described in the Crow Nose Codex, stabilized convergence following controlled breach collapse. They may have retreated, but this outcome still advances their overall agenda. But we gained something valuable, Ben noted, tapping his temple. Information about their coordination structure. I glimpsed something about Chronos Prime, and multiple convergence access points worldwide. We should get back to headquarters and analyze what you absorbed, Charmcaster suggested, already preparing a transportation spell. If there are patterns in the breach network, we might be able to predict their next move. As they prepared to depart, Caulifla noticed Ben's momentary unsteadiness, a subtle disorientation he quickly masked. The energy affected you more than you're admitting, she observed quietly, moving closer to provide unobtrusive support. It's not weakness, Ben clarified, accepting her assistance with a grateful nod. More like expansion. The dimensional energy carried perspectives from both our universes simultaneously. Processing that kind of information bandwidth is intense. Caulifla's expression reflected newfound understanding. In our universe, there are techniques for handling expanded consciousness, methods the gods use to perceive multiple realities. Perhaps similar approaches could help manage what you're experiencing. Their conversation paused as Charmcaster completed her transportation spell, a circular portal of violet energy forming before them. This will take us directly back to Gwen's apartment, she explained, gesturing for them to proceed. The dimensional fluctuations make conventional travel increasingly unpredictable. As they stepped through the portal, none noticed the subtle shimmer of observation several hundred yards away, a cloaked figure documenting their departure before activating its own transportation method, vanishing in a pulse of technology indistinguishable from magic. Gwen's apartment had evolved further during their absence, the merged architecture now extending throughout the building's interior. Walls incorporated materials from both universes in seamless integration, while ambient energy patterns created lighting effects impossible under single-universe physics. They found Gwen and Kevin coordinating global response efforts, while Rook analyzed data from dimensional monitoring stations worldwide. All three looked up as the team arrived through Charmcaster's portal, expressions revealing both relief and concern. You neutralized the breach, Gwen acknowledged, but similar structures are forming globally. The Chronos Collective seems to be implementing a coordinated strategy across multiple continents. We encountered their field commander, Ben reported, moving to the central display where he could transfer the absorbed information. And I managed to capture data from the breach itself, coordination protocols that might help us understand their overall approach. Kevin provided a specialized interface device. TS should help extract whatever you absorbed. Galvan Tech merged with some Universe 6 components Rook managed to salvage from convergence zones. As Ben connected with the hybrid technology, the information transferred more easily than expected. His consciousness had already partially processed the dimensional data, organizing it into recognizable patterns despite its alien structure. The display filled with complex schematics, geographical coordinates, and temporal sequences that Rook immediately began analyzing. Fascinating, the Ravanagander commented, methodical mind quickly identifying significant patterns. These appear to be staging protocols for a multi-phase convergence process. According to these sequences, what we've witnessed thus far is merely preliminary foundation work. Preliminary. Caulifla questioned incredulously. Our universes are already substantially merged in multiple locations. Yes, but in a relatively stable configuration, Rook elaborated, indicating specific data points. These protocols suggest a coming acceleration phase where stability will be deliberately collapsed to facilitate complete dimensional dissolution. Ben studied the displayed information, recognition dawning. They're building a controlled environment first, areas where both universes can temporarily coexist in relative harmony, before triggering the final convergence. Establishing base camps before attempting a mountain summit, Kai suggested, archaeological perspective providing apt metaphor. Are creating controlled burn zones before setting the main fire, Kevin added grimly. Charmcaster's attention fixed on magical formulas embedded within the data structure. There's something else here, a recurring reference to nexus attunement, associated with specific geographical coordinates. Gwen joined her analysis, magical expertise complementing Charmcaster's perspective. These formulas describe a location where dimensional boundaries naturally thin, a PLA. CE where universes connect even without engineered breaches. A dimensional nexus point, Ben realized, the concept resonating with information glimpsed during energy absorption. Somewhere that STS partially in both universes naturally. Kai's expression suddenly lit with recognition. She rapidly accessed her archaeological database, pulling up expedition records from months earlier. The Aru site where we found the Chronos Codex fragments, it exhibited exactly these characteristics. Environmental scans showed temporal and dimensional anomalies predating human civilization. Which LD explain why the Chronos Collective hasn't directly targeted that location, Rook reasoned, correlating with global activity reports. They don't need to establish what already exists naturally. But they would need to access it. Ben concluded, tactical assessment forming rapidly. A natural nexus would be the perfect location to trigger the final convergence phase, minimal resistance from dimensional laws. Maximum effect propagation. Kevin's interface device beeped as it completed data extraction, highlighting one sequence with particular emphasis. According to this, they're planning to secure the nexus point within the next 48 hours. Then that's our timeframe, Ben decided, already considering strategic options. We need to reach the Peru site before they do, establish defenses, and determine how to use the natural nexus to our advantage rather than theirs. International travel is increasingly problematic with dimensional instability affecting transportation systems, Rook cautioned. Commercial flights are grounded worldwide, and even plumber vessels experience navigation difficulties in convergence zones. I can create a long-range teleportation portal, Charmcaster offered. Though her expression revealed the magnitude of such an undertaking. But the magical energy required would be substantial, especially crossing continental distances through unstable dimensional space. And I can help power it, Gwen added, sharing a look of professional respect with her former rival. Our combined magical abilities should be sufficient, especially if we incorporate convergence energy as a catalyst. As they began preparations for the journey, the apartment's communication system activated unexpectedly, not the standard plumber channels, but a specialist frequency Gwen had established for emergency contacts. The holographic display resolved into an image they hadn't expected. Elena Validus, her appearance notably changed since their last encounter. Ben, Gwen, is this connection stable? Elena's voice came through with occasional distortion. I've been trying to reach you for days. Elena. Ben moved closer to the display, genuine surprise evident in his expression. Where are you? What's happening? I'm at Bellwood University's Advanced Research Facility, what's left of it after the convergence transformed half the campus. Her image flickered as she adjusted something off-screen. The dimensional merging has affected my nanites in ways I'm still trying to understand. But I've discovered something critical about the convergence process. The connection stabilized, giving them clearer view of Elena's transformation. The nanomachines that had once threatened to consume her humanity appeared to have reached a new equilibrium with her biological systems, her skin occasionally rippling with subtle technological patterns, eyes shifting between normal human appearance and enhanced interfaces. The nanites adapted to the dimensional convergence, she explained, noting their observation. They're incorporating aspects of Universe 6 technology spontaneously, evolving beyond their original programming. Like everything else caught in the merger, Ben noted, finding parallels to his own transformation. Different systems finding new equilibrium in the convergence zone. Elena nodded. Exactly. But they've also become sensitive to dimensional frequencies, almost like specialized sensors. That's how I detected unusual energy patterns emanating from beneath the university's archaeology department. The department that funded the Peru expedition. Kai realized immediately, where we found the Chronos Codex fragments. I've been mapping subterranean changes since the convergence began, Elena continued, sending data files through the connection. There's a network of dimensional fractures forming a specific pattern beneath Bellwood, all connecting to a central point directly under the archaeology department's secure storage facility. The implications registered simultaneously across the team. They don't need to travel to Peru, Ben verbalized their collective realization. They're creating a direct dimensional shortcut between locations. A wormhole using convergence energy as stabilization medium, Rook elaborated, rapidly incorporating this new information into their tactical assessment. Highly efficient, virtually undetectable through conventional monitoring. How soon could they activate this connection? Ben asked, already moving toward equipment preparation. That's why I contacted you now, Elena replied urgently. Energy readings suggest final calibration is already underway. We have hours at most before they establish permanent connection. Ben made an immediate decision. Change of plans. Elena, we're coming to your location. Maintain observation but don't engage directly. These entities have evolved significantly since our last encounters. Understood, she acknowledged. I'll continue monitoring and prepare for your arrival. Elena out. As the communication ended, Ben turned to the assembled team. We divide into 2 operational groups. Gwen, Kevin, Rook, prepare for potential Peru deployment if necessary. Charmcaster, Caulifla, Kai, you're with me to investigate the university connection. What about me? Elena had asked, her image returning briefly. I'm already on site and my nanites give me unique capabilities in this environment. You'll be our advance reconnaissance, Ben confirmed. Your nanite sensitivity to dimensional frequencies provides critical intelligence advantage. Just maintain safe distance until we arrive. These entities are far more dangerous than they appear. With roles established, preparation accelerated. Charmcaster gathered components for short-range teleportation while Caulifla performed final equipment checks. Though as a Saiyan warrior, her primary weapons remained her own formidable abilities. Kai collected specialized archaeological scanning equipment. Certain her expertise would prove valuable at a site connecting to the Peru discovery. As the team finalized preparations, Ben stepped onto the balcony for a moment of reflection. Studying Bellwood's transformed skyline, the merged reality had stabilized further in recent days, citizens adapting to impossible architecture and hybrid physics with remarkable resilience. What had begun as crisis was evolving into something else, a new normal that combined aspects of both universes in increasingly harmonious configuration. Having second thoughts, Caulifla's Voic interrupted his contemplation as she joined him at the railing. Not about the mission, Ben clarified, gesturing toward the city below. About what happens if we succeed. Look at how people are adapting. How both our worlds are finding balance in the convergence. If we prevent Zenith's final phase but leave things as they are now, we create a third option. Caulifla completed his thought, surprising him with her insight. Not complete separation, not complete dissolution, but sustainable integration. Ben nodded. Exactly. Azimuth suggested balance was the key. What if that doesn't mean preventing convergence entirely, but guiding it toward stability instead? Caulifla considered this perspective, her usual combative expression softening into something more contemplative. On Sadala, there's a concept called harmonious conquest, the idea that true victory comes not from destroying your opponent, but from creating something stronger through the challenge. She met his gaze directly. Perhaps that's what this is, 2 universes challenging each other to evolve together rather than exist separately. The moment of philosophical connection between them was interrupted as Charmcaster emerged onto the balcony. Final teleportation components in hand. If she noticed the unusual rapport between Ben and Caulifla, she gave no indication beyond a momentary pause. The portal spell is ready, she announced. Professional focus masking whatever other thoughts might have crossed her mind. I've tuned it to Alina's transmission coordinates. The convergence energy actually makes dimensional translation easier in some ways. The boundaries are already partially dissolved. Then let's move, Ben decided, following her inside where Kai waited with their equipment prepared. Charmcaster's teleportation spell manifested differently than previous iterations, the dimensional energy saturation creating unprecedented effects as violet magic interacted with convergence frequencies. The resulting portal shimmered with multiple overlapping realities, pathways between universes briefly visible within its structure before stabilizing into a direct connection to their destination. That's not how my portals usually form, Charmcaster observed with academic interest despite the circumstances. The magical currents are interwoven with dimensional frequencies I've never encountered before. Is it safe? Kai asked practically, equipment pack secured across her shoulders. Relatively speaking, Charmcaster confirmed with the cautious precision of an experienced sorceress. I recommend moving quickly, stability in convergence zones remains unpredictable. They proceeded through in rapid succession, emerging into what had once been Bellwood University's central plaza. The transformation here was more pronounced than in residential areas. Academic buildings now incorporated technological elements from Universe 6 learning centers, while vegetation had evolved into hybrid species that processed information as well as energy, leaves subtly shifting to display changing data patterns. Elena awaited them beside a structure that defied architectural classification, part Earth building, part alien technology, functioning as an integrated system that served purposes beyond conventional understanding. Her transformed appearance was more evident in person, nanomachines occasionally visible beneath her skin in complex flowing patterns. You made it, she greeted with evident relief, though her eyes widened slightly at Ben's changed appearance. You've been affected by the convergence too. Saiyan DNA integration through the Omnitrix, Ben explained succinctly. It's a long story involving dimensional engineering and ancient prophecies. Isn't it always? Lena replied with a hint of their old familiar rapport. The secure facility is this way. My nanites have been monitoring activity patterns without triggering their awareness systems. As they follow her through campus grounds transformed by convergence, Kai moved closer to Ben. You two have history, she observed quietly. Complicated, you could say that, Ben acknowledged. Elena was in CTED with microscopic machines called nanites years ago. They nearly consumed her completely before she managed to establish control. We've been adversaries and allies at different times. And now, Kai asked perceptively. Ben watched Elena lead them with confidence born of hard-won self-mastery. Now she seems to have found balance, much like everything else in the convergence. The nanites are integrated rather than controlling. They reached a building that had once housed the university's archaeology department, now a hybrid structure with sections that phased between different states of materiality. Elena paused before a security system that incorporated both traditional Earth technology and alien components. The nanites can interface with the merged systems, she explained, ending her hand as microscopic machines flowed from her fingertips to interact with the security apparatus. The integration gives me access I wouldn't have with either system independently. The door reconfigured, molecular structure shifting to create an opening rather than simply unlocking. Inside, they found a research facility in mid-transformation, laboratory equipment evolving beyond its original design as convergence energy catalyzed spontaneous technological advancement. The dimensional nexus point is below us, Elena informed them, leading toward a restricted access elevator. The security systems reported authorized personnel entering earlier today, but surveillance records show no one physically present. The Chronos entities can phase between dimensional states, Ben explained. Standard recording equipment wouldn't register their presence. The elevator descended deeper than standard building plans would suggest possible, eventually opening into a vast underground amber that clearly predated the university's construction. Ancient stone architecture merged with advanced technology, creating a space that existed simultaneously in multiple temporal states. This isn't on any official blueprint, Kai noted, archaeological expertise immediately recognizing the significance. These construction patterns match pre-Incan design elements found at the Peru site. Quote, because they're the same location in different dimensional alignments, Charmcaster realized, magical senses perceiving connections invisible to normal perception. This chamber and the Peru temple occupy the same dimensional coordinates, separated only by the thinning boundary between universes. At the chamber's center stood an elaborate apparatus, part technological, part magical, constructed around what appeared to be an ancient stone altar. The device pulsed with energy that distorted spatial perception around it, creating visual echoes that showed the same equipment existing in multiple configurations simultaneously. "There's your dimensional shortcut," Elena confirmed, nanites reacting visibly to the energy fields. "My machines detect active calibration protocols, they're establishing final connection parameters now." Ben studied the apparatus with tactical assessment honed through years of experience. "Can we disable it safely? Or would disruption cause dangerous feedback?" Caulifla moved closer to the device. Saiyan senses providing unique perspective on its energy patterns. "The power regulation is sophisticated. Disrupt it carelessly and we could create uncontrolled dimensional cascade." "I concur," Charmcaster added after magical analysis. "This isn't just technology or spellcraft, it's a hybridized system using principles from both universes simultaneously. Deactivation would require understanding exactly how the integration functions. Then we document everything first," Ben decided, turning to Kai. "Your archaeological knowledge combined with Elena's technological expertise might help identify vulnerabilities in the design." As they began systematic analysis, Caulifla suddenly tensed, battle instincts activating. "We're not alone," she warned, seconds before reality rippled around them. The Chronos entities materialized from dimensional phase shift, a dozen figures in evolved armor, accompanied by the commander they'd encountered during the breach incident. Unlike previous encounters, they didn't immediately attack, instead forming a containment perimeter around the chamber. "Catalyst subject located," the commander announced, its shifting features settling into approximation of humanoid appearance. "Development progression exceeds predicted models. Chronos Prime will be notified." Ben stepped forward, positioning himself protectively before the others. "We know about your connection to the Peru site. Whatever Zenith has planned for the dimensional nexus, it's not happening." The commander's expression remained clinically impassive. "Your comprehension is incomplete. The nexus serves purposes beyond mere convergence implementation. It is the threshold through which primal instinct manifests, the boundary between divided existence and unified potential. And you need me to access it," Ben concluded, pieces connecting from absorbed information and current observations. "This Dragon Saiyan form you helped engineer." "Correct," the commander acknowledged without emotion. "Your hybrid state provides necessary interface properties for nexus activation. The threshold responds only to beings who embody convergence itself." Ca. Caulifla moved to fighting stance beside Ben, energy gathering around her hands. "You'll have to go through us to use him for whatever you're planning." The commander regarded her with detached analysis. "Resistance is anticipated but unnecessary. The catalyst's participation need not be conscious or voluntary, merely present." Before anyone could respond, the dimensional apparatus activated independently. Energy patterns accelerating as connection protocols initiated without external input. The chamber trembled as reality thinned further, walls becoming translucent to reveal superimposed images of the Peru temple occupying the same space across dimensional boundaries. "They're forcing the connection from the other side," Charmcaster realized, magical countermeasures already forming around her hands. This was a coordinated operation. "We're facing simultaneous incursion from both access points." The commander made no move to attack, instead observing with scientific interest as the dimensional overlay strengthened. "Chronos Prime begins threshold establishment. Catalyst presence confirmed. Primal resonance imminent." Through the dimensional transparency, they glimpsed another figure, redirecting operations at the Peru site, similar to the commander but more substantial, its armor incorporating elements that suggested higher authority within the collective structure. This entity turned toward them as though sensing observation across dimensional boundaries, its featureless face focusing directly on Ben. "The Dragon Saiyan approaches threshold potential," it communicated, CE somehow transmitting clearly despite dimensional separation. "Initiate resonance amplification sequence." The Chronos entities moved with synchronized precision, positioning themselves at specific points around the chamber. Their armor began emitting harmonized energy patterns that interacted with the dimensional apparatus, accelerating the connection process beyond design parameters. They're overloading it deliberately, Elena warned, nanites providing real-time analysis of energy fluctuations. Not to destroy it, but to create unfiltered dimensional exposure. Ben understood immediately. They're trying to force evolutionary response, push my hybrid form to adapt to raw dimensional energy as catalyst for further transformation. We need to disrupt their formation, Caulifla declared. Combat assessment matching Ben's tactical conclusion. Break the resonance pattern before it reaches critical threshold. Ben nodded agreement, reaching for the Omnitrix. Something with precise energy control. Chromastone should work, absorption and redirection capabilities without excessive power output. As transformation began, the familiar green-gold light enveloping him, the commander made a subtle gesture. The Chronos entities immediately adjusted their resonance pattern, energy frequencies shifting to interact directly with the transformation process itself. Synchronization initiated, the commander announced with clinical satisfaction. Catalyst transformation matrix engaged. Ben felt the difference immediately, his transformation into Chromastone proceeding normally T accompanied by unprecedented energy integration. The crystalline form emerged with expected Saiyan enhancements, but also something more, dimensional resonance incorporated directly into his energy structure. Creating capabilities beyond standard parameters. They're using my transformation as amplification mechanism, he realized, voice carrying multiple harmonic overtones simultaneously. The Omnitrix is interacting with their resonance field. Charmcaster immediately understood the implications. Ben, you need to revert form immediately. They're using your transformation energy to stabilize the dimensional threshold. Before he could comply, the apparatus at chamber center reached critical activation stage, reality between universes thinning to transparency as the Peru Temple and Und. Our ground facility achieved perfect dimensional alignment. Energy cascaded through the chamber in geometric patterns that connected directly to Ben's transformed state, creating feedback loop that prevented deactivation. I can't revert, he called out, the Omnitrix symbol pulsing rapidly as it processed unprecedented energy configurations. The transformation matrix is locked in resonance pattern. Caulifla didn't hesitate, launching herself toward the nearest Chronos entities with battle fury unleashed. Her attack disrupted two resonance points simultaneously, creating momentary fluctuation in the energy pattern. Target their positioning, she shouted to the others. Break the geometric structure. Elena responded immediately, nanomachines flowing from her body in concentrated streams. That interfaced with and disrupted the technology components of the Chronos armor. Charmcaster unleashed precisely targeted counter-magic against the mystical elements, while Kai used her archaeologic knowledge to identify and target symbolic power nodes in the chamber's ancient architecture. Their coordinated assault created cascading disruptions throughout the resonance network, forcing the Chronos entities to adapt their formation. The commander observed with clinical detachment before making decision. Contingency protocols activated, it announced, armor reconfiguring to project enhanced dimensional field. Direct catalyst stimulation authorized, it launched toward Ben with unprecedented speed, phase shifting to bypass Caulifla's intercepting attack. Before anyone could prevent the contact, it pressed an armored hand directly against the Omnitrix symbol on Chromastone's chest, transferring concentrated dimensional energy directly into the transformation matrix. The effect as immediate and overwhelming, energy cascading through Ben's crystalline form as the Omnitrix struggled to process input beyond design parameters. Chromastone's natural absorption capabilities prevented immediate overload, but the power levels continued rising beyond sustainable thresholds. Too much energy, Ben managed through strained communication, his form beginning to emit light across multiple spectral ranges simultaneously. Can't contain it within transformation parameters. The commander maintained contact, continuously channeling dimensional power into the Omnitrix. Threshold approaching. Primal resonance detected. Catalyst evolution imminent. Ben felt something changing at fundamental level, not merely Chromastone's form being enhanced, but his entire consciousness expanding beyond normal perception limits. Awareness extended across dimensional boundaries, sensing multiple reality configurations simultaneously while energy built toward unprecedented release potential. Through this expanded perception, He glimpsed Zenith watching from beyond conventional spacetime, vast consciousness focused entirely on this moment, this threshold, this catalyst transformation. The ancient entity's anticipation radiated across dimensional barriers, a palpable force driving the convergence toward completion. With that awareness came understanding. Zenith didn't merely want to restore primordial unified reality. He sought to control it completely, absorbing all divergent evolution from separated universes to fuel his own transcendence. The Dragon Saiyan wasn't meant to access primal instinct as independent entity, but as conduit through which Zenith would channel that power for his own ascension. He wants to absorb everything, Ben communicated through increasingly unstable transformation. All evolutionary potential from both universes, channeled through primal instinct to fuel his transformation into something beyond dimensional constraints. The revelation galvanized his resistance against the process. Despite overwhelming energy influx, Ben focused his consciousness on maintaining separation, preventing the threshold completion that would allow Zenith access to the emerging primal instinct potential. Caulifla recognized his struggle, Saiyan instincts understanding the battle occurring beyond physical perception. He's fighting dimensional transcendence, she informed the others. We need to help regulate the energy flow, provide stabilization without allowing complete transformation. My nanites can interface with the Omnitrix systems, Elena offered immediately. Create buffers against overload while maintaining core functionality. And I can establish magical containment around the excess dimensional energy, Charmcaster added, already casting appropriate spells. Redirect rather than suppress. They moved with coordinated purpose, Elena extending nanomachine tendrils that connected with the Omnitrix symbol, creating technological interface. That helped regulate energy processing. Charmcaster's magic formed containment patterns around Ben's transformed state, channeling overflow energy into controlled dispersion rather than catastrophic release. The commander observed these countermeasures with first indication of concern, its impassive features showing subtle signs of calculation. Catalyst stabilization protocols detected. Threshold completion compromised. Increasing dimensional transfer rate. It adjusted output, channeling even more power into the Omnitrix matrix. The sudden escalation overwhelmed initial countermeasures. Energy surging through Ben's crystalline form with intensity that threatened molecular cohesion. Chromastone's absorption capabilities reached maximum capacity, crystalline structure beginning to fracture under dimensional pressure. In that critical moment, something unexpected occurred. The Saiyan aspects of Ben's hybrid physiology responded independently to imminent destruction threat. Golden energy erupted from within the crystalline form, reinforcing molecular bonds while simultaneously processing dimensional power through biological channels never meant for such application. The commander's featureless face registered what might have been surprise. Unauthorized adaptation detected. Saiyan transformation protocols activating prematurely. Ben felt the change immediately, not the rolled transformation into primal instinct that Zenith had engineered, but something entirely different. The Saiyan genetics integrated into his being responded to extreme duress with evolutionary adaptation. Accessing transformation potential that merged with rather than replaced the Omnitrix capabilities. What's happening to him? Kai asked, witnessing the unprecedented transformation with academic fascination despite immediate danger. He's accessing Super Saiyan transformation through the Omnitrix matrix, Caulifla explained, recognizing the energy signature despite its unusual manifestation. The genetic potential is expressing through his alien form rather than human baseline. Indeed, Chromastone's crystalline body began emanating golden light from within, structural patterns configuring to channel Saiyan energy alongside dimensional power. The Omnitrix symbol shifted from standard configuration to a more complex design that incorporated elements from both transformation systems simultaneously. The commander attempted to disengage, recognizing deviation from planned catalyst development, but found itself unable to break connection, the evolving transformation now drawing power rather than merely receiving it. Contingency failure, it communicated to unseen observers. Catalyst development proceeding along unpredicted vector. Ben felt consciousness expanding Hers transformation stabilized into unprecedented configuration. Chromastone's energy manipulation capabilities enhanced by Super Saiyan transformation factors, creating synergistic power expression beyond either system independently. More importantly, The hybrid state remained under his control rather than serving as passive conduit for Zenith's influence. With newfound stability, Ben focused intention through transformed state. Energy patterns responding to conscious direction rather than external manipulation. The connection between Commander and Omnitrix reversed polarity, power flowing outward rather than inward. Containment breach. The Commander announced with first display of genuine alarm. Catalyst asserting independent control parameters. The dimensional energy redirected through Ben's transformed state with precision impossible minutes earlier, targeting the resonance pattern maintained by Chronos entities throughout the chamber. Each directed energy beam struck with calculated effect, disrupting specific nodes in their formation without triggering catastrophic feedback. The Commander attempted desperate recalibration, armor systems cycling through multiple configurations seeking effective countermeasure. Priority alert to Chronos Prime. Catalyst evolution proceeding along unauthorized parameters. Contingency Omega authorized. Before it could implement whatever final protocol that designation indicated, Caulifla intercepted with precisely targeted attack, key blast striking junction between armor plates where previous observation had identified vulnerability. The Commander's form destabilized momentarily, dimensional phase shifting disrupted by energy frequency specifically effective against its construction. The resonance network is collapsing, Charmcaster called out. Magical senses tracking energy pattern dissolution throughout the chamber. The dimensional connection is destabilizing. Through the thinned reality barrier, they glimpsed similar disruption occurring at Peru's site. Chronos Prime's operations facing unexpected resistance as the carefully engineered threshold failed to complete formation. The higher entity's attention focused directly on Ben's transformed state. Recognition and recalculation evident even across dimensional boundary. Interesting divergence. Dragon Saiyan, Chronos Prime communicated, voice transmitting W. ITH unsettling clarity despite increasing dimensional separation. This adaptation was not anticipated but remains ultimately irrelevant. The threshold will be established regardless of pathway. The Peru site began receding from perception as dimensional alignment weakened, connection between locations dissolving as resonance patterns failed. Before complete separation, Chronos Prime made final declaration. Your development proceeds along alternative vector, but still advances toward primal instinct manifestation. Evolution cannot be prevented, merely redirected. We will meet again when the final threshold approaches. With that ominous promise, the dimensional overlay collapsed completely, Peru Temple vanishing from perception as normal spatial parameters reasserted in the underground chamber. The Chronos entities, including their commander, withdrew through rapidly closing dimensional fractures, tactical retreat executed with precision that belied their apparent setback. As immediate threat subsided, Ben allowed his transformed state to stabilize further, Super Saiyan energy integrating completely with Chromastone's crystalline structure to create harmonious expression of both power systems simultaneously. The resulting form emanated controlled energy that interacted with remaining dimensional frequencies in the chamber, establishing localized stability rather than continued disruption. That was, he began. Voice carrying harmonic resonance beyond normal speech. Spectacular. Kai completed, archaeological scanner documenting the unprecedented transformation with academic precision despite recent danger. You accessed Super Saiyan transformation through alien form rather than human baseline. Which shouldn't be possible by any conventional understanding of either system, Elena added. Nanites providing real-time analysis of the energy patterns involved. The Omnitrix is designed to override your human DNA completely during transformation, while Saiyan T. Transformations normally require biological baseline to function. Caulifla approached with professional assessment rather than her usual competitiveness. You bypassed normal evolutionary sequence. IRST stage Super Saiyan typically requires specific emotional catalyst and extensive training to maintain. I felt the transformation potential responding to immediate threat, Ben explained, examining his crystalline form with its golden energy integration. Not conscious decision so much as survival adaptation. Which matches how the Omnitrix sometimes functions in crisis situations, Charmcaster noted. Magical senses perceiving the integrated energy patterns. Responding to deepest survival imperatives rather than surface intentions. Ben focused on the transformation's capabilities, sensing unprecedented energy control potential, Chromastone's natural absorption and redirection enhanced by Super Saiyan power factors, creating synergistic expression beyond either system independently. More importantly, the integration felt natural rather than forced, balanced rather than overwhelming. Azimuth said balance was the key, he recalled, understanding deepening with direct experience. Not maximum power output but perfect integration of disparate systems. And you achieved that integration naturally rather than through their engineered pathway, Elena observed. Which clearly wasn't part of their calculations. The implications were significant. If Ben could access controlled integration of Omnitrix and Saiyan capabilities, perhaps primal instinct could manifest as stabilis. Ing influence rather than destructive catalyst. The path to that manifestation, however, remained uncertain and fraught with complexity. We should return to headquarters, he decided, allowing transformation to conclude naturally rather than forcing deactivation. The Omnitrix responded with unusual smoothness, transition from enhanced chromastone to human form proceeding without the typical energy discharge or disorientation. As transformation completed, Ben noticed immediate differences in his baseline state, the golden energy of Super Saiyan transformation persisting momentarily before set. TLING into controlled circulation throughout his system. His awareness remained heightened, senses perceiving energy patterns that would normally require transformed state to detect. The transformation affected your baseline form, Caulifla noted, Saiyan perception recognizing subtle changes in his energy signature. Super Saiyan activation typically has lingering effects on underlying physiology. It feels different than before, Ben acknowledged, examining hands that occasionally flickered with residual golden energy. More integrated, less like separate systems competing for expression. Elena's nanites provided additional insight, microscopic machines briefly interfacing with his altered biology. The Saiyan genetic integration has deepened. What began as surface-level incorpority has extended to cellular function throughout your system. Which means the Dragon Saiyan transformation is proceeding regardless of which pathway it follows, Charmcaster concluded with concern evident beneath professional assessment. Whether through their engineered process or your natural adaptation, you're still advancing toward whatever primal instinct represents. The observation sobered their momentary triumph. While they had prevented immediate threshold activation, the underlying progression continued, perhaps delayed but not fundamentally altered. The question remained whether N's natural adaptation path would lead to significantly different outcome than Zenith's engineered approach. As they prepared to depart the chamber, Kai's archaeological scanner detected residual G patterns throughout the ancient architecture. The dimensional connection may have collapsed, but this location remains significant. The threshold didn't form completely, but structural weakening between universes persists. Which means they could potentially re-establish connection with less effort than initial formation required, Ben reasoned, tactical assessment already considering future contingencies. We need to implement more permanent countermeasures before they attempt second activation. Charmcaster examined the chamber's mystical elements with professional thoroughness. I see. Old established dimensional reinforcement barriers, magical countermeasures against further thinning. But maintaining such protections across two locations simultaneously would require significant power source. My nanites could interface with both technological and biological systems, Elena suggested. Create self-sustaining monitoring network that adapts to changing conditions automatically. Ben considered both approaches, leadership experience guiding strategic assessment. We implement layered defenses, magical barriers supplemented by technological monitoring, with regular physical inspection to verify integrity. This location becomes priority protection site requiring rotation security detail. With immediate crisis addressed and preliminary countermeasures established, they depart. The underground chamber. Elena's nanites establishing initial monitoring network while Charmcaster placed temporary magical wards until more permanent protection could be implemented. The dimension. Energy residue throughout the facility had already begun stabilizing into harmonious patterns rather than chaotic fluctuation, another indication that convergence naturally sought equilibrium when not artificially manipulated. As they emerged above ground, they found campus environment further transformed during their underground confrontation, convergence effects accelerating throughout Belwo. As dimensional resonance patterns established self-reinforcing stability. The university grounds now existed as perfect integration of educational facilities from both universes, architecture and Unction merged into something that transcended original design limitations of either world. It's beautiful in its way, Kai observed, academic appreciation evident despite recent danger. Two evolute, ionary paths merging to create something neither could have developed independently. The question remains whether such integration can sustain itself naturally, Elena noted, nanites sampling environmental conditions, or requires continuous adjustment to prevent collapse. Ben studied the transformed campus thoughtfully, philosophical implications extending beyond immediate tactical concerns. If balanced convergence represents third option between complete separation and total dissolution, understanding how stability forms naturally becomes crucial to our approach. You're thinking beyond just stopping zenith, Charmcaster realized, perceptive insight cutting to core of his contemplation, considering whether partial convergence might be preserved even after countering his ultimate plan. Ben nodded, watching students from both universes navigating shared educational space with remarkable adaptation. Look how quickly people adjust to new normal, finding ways to communicate across different evolutionary backgrounds, creating hybrid systems that incorporate strengths from both worlds. Saiyans adapt through challenge, Caulifla added, her usual competitive nature temporarily subdued by thoughtful observation. Perhaps universes follow similar principle, growing stronger through interaction rather than isolation. The philosophical moment extended briefly before practical concerns reasserted priority. They needed to return to headquarters, share discoveries about threshold mechanics and Ben's unprecedented transformation development, coordinate global response to continued Chronos collective activities. As Charmcaster prepared transportation spell, Ben felt subtle shift in dimensional energies surrounding them, not threat or instability, but something deeper. For a brief moment, his enhanced perception glimpsed underlying structure of reality itself, not two separate universes colliding, but fragmented aspects of originally unified existence gradually remembering ancient connection. The insight faded as quickly as it appeared, leaving lingering awareness that convergence represented something more profound than mere cosmic accident or villainous scheme. Either guided by Zenith's manipulation or proceeding through natural affinity, the universes themselves seemed to recognize primordial connection transcending their long separation. The Dragon Saiyan's role in that reconnection remained uncertain, catalyst for destruction or agent of harmonious integration. But with each adaptation, each balanced transformation, Ben moved closer to answer that will. Ultimately determine fate of multiple realities and countless lives throughout both universes. Chapter 3 End. The End. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.